Welcome to the Lock-In. It's Friday night. I'm Barry Chandler, founder of Stories and Sips and host of the Lock-In every Friday night. And we are going to have a session tonight. We're going to have a great night with whiskies from Bushmills Distillery in Northern Ireland. We're going to bring on two great guests in a few minutes to have the crack, to talk with us, to sip on whiskies, to tell stories, and to just hang out. I'm delighted you're all here again, and I'm delighted to see so many familiar faces, and delighted to see so many whiskies already in your glasses. Whatever you're drinking, whatever's in your glass, share it with us. Tell us what it is. Tell us what you're sipping on tonight. If you've got three whiskies that we're drinking tonight, the Sexton, Black Bush, and Bushmills Single Malt Malaga Cask 1995, feel free to sip along with us. We'll be going tonight in the order of Black Bush, then the Sexton, and then the Malaga Cask from the Causeway Collection. So it's going to be a great all night, a great session. It would be remiss of me not to start by mentioning the glass that surrounds me, the green glass. It's been a long day of chasing glassware around Southern California, but we got it done. And we have here, the first time in my hand, the world's first green Tua glass. And it was a bit of a stretch, bit of a haul, bit of a challenge today getting hold of these glasses. If we had depended only on FedEx to get them to us, we wouldn't have had them till next week, and we'd have missed 3 or 4 good shipping days to get these across the United States for St. Patrick's Day, and that was our goal, wasn't it? So you'll see some of them behind me on the shelf. I'll be sipping out of green Tua glasses all night, proudly, and enjoying them and making good use of them. We waited long enough for them. They were a month in transit. Can you believe that? A month, which is a long, long time. So I'll be enjoying the green Tua glass tonight. So for all of you, the 400 plus of you that ordered your green Tua glasses, they're on the way. They're here, surrounding my desk. And tonight after the Lock-In and tomorrow morning, it'll be a busy house here. Mrs. Stories and Sips doesn't know it yet, but she's going to be hauled in to help pack boxes, and we'll get all these out, as many as we can out tomorrow, and then Sunday and Monday, and then they'll all be winging their way across the United States, which was our goal. And hopefully you'll have them in time for St. Patrick's Day. All right, so let me look through the comments. Let me see. There's Tim Murphy joining us from Cove. First comment of the night. Good man, Tim. Great to see you. Rob says, I see you made it back with the glasses. I did, in one piece. David Stewart is joining us with Bushmills 10 in Los Angeles. Good man. Michael Mullen's got Bushmills 10 with a Guinness in Glasgow. Great stuff. Lorcan says, great guests tonight. Looking forward to it. Absolutely. We have great guests tonight. In a few minutes, we'll be joined by Alex Thomas, Master Blender for the Sexton, and Lauren MacMullen, Brand Ambassador for Bushmills. And we are going to have a session, and they are going to wow us with their insights and their knowledge and a bit of crack. Steve says, glad you made it back. Okay, you deserve some nice ones this evening. Well, we have some nice ones. 3 nice whiskies, luckily, tonight. Clay Scholes has got Bushmills Distillery 12-year-old. Good man. Kieran Quinn up in New Jersey is sipping on a Black Bush to start. Fair play to you all. You all came prepared. Peter in Dublin, Black Bush all night. Good man. Look at this. You all listened. You all paid attention, and you all turned up with your whiskies. Drinking Sexton, Holly Twaddle in Kansas. Greg Anderson starting with Black Bush. Everyone's got the whiskies. This is amazing. Maybe this is the first night where almost everybody has at least one of the whiskies. Sarah Kennedy from McConnell's Irish Whiskey says, no turtleneck tonight. It is getting warm here. And I thought I just wanted to prove to you that I actually had a neck. Nobody thinks I have a neck. Pourcast is joining, saying, got his Sexton, his first Lock-In. Got his Sexton poured and ready to go. You're very welcome, Mr. or Mrs. Pourcast. Great stuff. Lisa is ready with the whole lineup. Fantastic. All the way from New York. This is great news altogether. And Laura Barry in Cork via Dingle and via Cork. Bushmills 21 is waiting. Great stuff. She said, I might have to crack into that myself later as well. And Tegan King is joining us in Belfast with the Bushmills 10-year-old. Fantastic. Great stuff, Tegan. And Bill is going to open second bottle of the Sexton. You're doing the Lock-In proud tonight with all of the whiskies that you've turned up with. So there's no point in waiting any longer, is there? We should bring in our 2 wonderful guests. That is their cue to get their microphones and their cameras turned on. And we'll be bringing in Alex and Lauren, who'll be joining us. So without further ado, let's make this even more interesting by having 2 great guests. Alex and Lauren, you're so welcome.
Thank you so much.
Barry. Thank you so much for having us.
This is the closest we're going to get for a while to a real live, in-person lock-in, and I get the feeling that you're ready for a session.
Absolutely. It's a long time coming to get staying up after midnight.
You don't know what you're letting yourself in for here, Barry, with myself and Alex.
I got messages during the week from people saying, you got a couple of characters coming on there now tonight. I don't know if you're ready for the characters. And I said, we want some big character energy. That's what we want. The lock-in is all about a bit of entertainment, a bit of crack. You both might be the most prolific users of social media in the world of Irish whiskey, judging by all the tags and comments and messages I saw flying around this week. Where do you find the time to be selling whiskey?
It's amazing the support we get on social media, and it's such fun, especially when we're all stuck at home and not able to do anything. So social media is our savior, and to see people actually out there supporting our brands is absolutely fantastic. So I've got to meet so many amazing people all over the world thanks to it. So yeah, it's been fantastic.
I felt terrible on, was it Wednesday was Irish Whiskey Day. I think I had about 40 Instagram stories just from people posting things. I was like, I'm going to get a lot of unfollows here. But as you say, the support is incredible. And Alex, as you've just said there, you know, social media connects you with people who love our brands on the other side of the world, which you wouldn't normally get the opportunity to meet. So it's fantastic.
There's never been more conversation, more chatter, more love for the whiskies that are coming out of the Bushmills Distillery. You have been rolling out some incredible whiskies over the past couple of years, and I know there's more and more to come. What's it been like seeing this increase in chatter, conversation, probably demands on your time?
Well, for me, it's been absolutely amazing. Obviously, when I joined the industry, there wasn't as many distilleries in Ireland. We'd almost been fallen out of love with, but now everyone's back falling in love with the Irish whiskey, experiencing the amazing craft that we actually produce and tasting it and realizing how great we are. And it's amazing to be part of that industry. And it's thanks to that love that the Sexton has actually been able to come to the market. So I'm very grateful and thankful for that support.
It's been incredible. I know we'll talk about it a lot more later, but the Causeway Collection is obviously a very hot topic at the minute. And from being in the distillery and working there, that's the one thing people wanted to see from Bushmills was that innovation, the real drive for that. And it's especially the end of last year when we started to initially, release the Causeway Collection, to hear people say things like Bushmills is back. This is what we love. It just filled you with so much pride and passion for the brand. It was almost as if people had reignited the love for the brand. Yeah. And it's been just so nice to see.
Isn't it funny when people say Bushmills is back, because it's one of the only distilleries that never went away?
Yeah. I was like, how does that work? Yeah, exactly.
We're going to get into more detail on the whiskies and talk about what's been happening over the last couple of years. But I've never had the pleasure of meeting you both in person. I've come across many of your shares on social media. Lauren, I was on the Cork Whisky Society tasting last week and got to hear and learn from you there. So we've not hung out in person, and I'd love to know a little bit more about your own backgrounds and how you got started in the distillery and in the world of whiskey. And Alex, maybe you could start and give us kind of your background and what led you to doing what you're doing now.
Well, my background, I started off in the wood industry, but I was really fortunate back in 2004. For anybody that lives in the North Coast, just knows everything about Bushmills, and to get the opportunity to actually go and work there was like a dream come true. My husband already worked there, and he came home and told me about this opportunity. I absolutely jumped at it. Still can't believe I was able to get the job. I still remember my interview thinking, I came out thinking there's no way I've ever got that. So I came home one evening, we were eating dinner, and this envelope was sitting on the table, and I remember saying, what's that? And he's going, oh, I don't know. So I ate my dinner, and halfway through I decided I'll open this up. And it was actually my letter of offer. And there I was sitting going, oh, this is amazing. I've got this job. And I very, very quickly fell in love. I was taken on board by a team of people who just loved whiskey. And I was so blessed. They just wanted to teach me everything about the craft. They were people that just were so steeped in history and everything about how Irish whiskey was so amazing. And I say I was very blessed that they took me aside as somebody that they felt they could share all that knowledge with. Very quickly fell in love, and in 2008 decided this was the career path for me. So started doing my GCD and General Certificate in Distilling, and then went on to do my diploma. 2012 qualified and knew this was definitely the journey for me. I decided I wanted to create something and give back to those that had taken all of that time to teach me what I needed to know. And that's where the Sexton journey began. Did I ever think it would see daylight? No. But phenomenally, in 2017, we launched the Sexton in America first. And in less than a year, the Sexton became the #1 Irish single malt in America. Like, what? It's just been such a whirlwind journey. But I have to thank so many special people that have just taken so much time. And me, like, it's a wonderful industry to be in. It's like a family. There's so many distillers I have to thank for their journeys that they have helped me being on, even though they're not even part of my brand. They were here to support me. You've got Colin Megan, you've got Darrell McNally, you have got Billy Lighton. They're all there to support us new people coming along in the industry. And all they ask is that we represent Ireland well. And I believe the Sexton does that, and it really is out there, and people are enjoying it exactly as I'd always hoped they would. Yeah, a dream come true.
Alex, when you started, when you got that passion and you thought in 2008, this is the career path for you, there weren't that many distilleries where you could have plied your craft or your trade. At that stage, the Irish whiskey industry was still a handful of distilleries. So you were making a bet on Bushmills at the time, were you?
I was, obviously, with it being 400 years there. It was the oldest, it's the best distillery in the whole world. I absolutely love everything about Ireland. And for me, it's my hometown. It's where I have grown up, and knowing all those stories growing up from my father and my grandfather that enjoyed the brand. So to be part of that has just been a dream come true, to see how I can make a difference in the future of that distillery and how I get to use it and tweak it to make my flavor profiles the way I want. It's just been phenomenal. Yeah.
And tell me, Alex, where is Stevie tonight? Is he? I hope he's not hanging out with Darrell, is he, or maybe playing with the dog?
Well, I would say if social distance wasn't here, Darrell would probably be there somewhere. Yeah, the lives have been quite lively, thanks to them. No, I would say they're listening in somewhere.
It's a small world, the world of Irish whiskey, isn't it? Like you mentioned, Darrell and Billy Lighton and all the names we know. Yeah, exactly. And like they've been taking so much care of me over the years, and just ensuring that I had all of the knowledge and the skills that I needed to create something that I could put out into the market and continue the growth in the Irish market. And that's exactly what it's all about. We all love what we do, and we just want to show people all over the world how great we are at what we do. Well, Darrell couldn't miss an opportunity to message me when he knew you were coming on, and wanted me to catch you out and to stop you in your tracks, and said it was a great privilege of his to have been able to work with you and mentor you over the years as well, and train with you. So it's a wonderful community, and something I love to see this, no matter where people end up, now that there's a much broader range of distilleries where those with the skills can now work. Everyone is still close and tight, and everybody knows everybody in the best way.
Without a doubt, like, Darrell's fantastic. He's taught me so much over the years. He obviously was part of the Bushmills family as well before he moved on to bigger and better and different things throughout his career. And now he obviously has a different career path like myself. And we've just all grown in the industry. And it's that beauty of the industry that allows us to do that. Like, there is no other industry, I believe, that actually teaches you everything you need to know and skills you up that you can become a competitor. So it's just fantastic to see that.
Would you believe I've never been to the distillery? I have never seen it with my own. No, never. I've never been there.
Sorry.
I know. And like when I was, I'm old enough that when I was growing up in Ireland, there were only 2 distilleries on the island, Middleton and Bushmills, in the 1980s. And I grew up 12 miles from one of them. I've never seen the other one. And I have 10 whiskies from Bushmills, but I've never set foot on the grounds. We have to remedy that.
Well, you have two women who are
over. We'll sort it.
Two women who are more than happy to show you around the distillery. Absolutely.
Without a doubt.
Lauren, you started working in the distillery. Well, actually, why don't you tell us when you started working in the distillery, rather than me telling you when you started?
So my journey into the industry is probably quite different to how most manage to get in. So I studied languages at Queen's University down in Belfast. So I studied French and Spanish, and back in 2014, so 7 years ago, I noticed that the distillery were looking for language speakers, because obviously in the summer we would get about 150,000 visitors, a lot of people. And I also live 20 minutes away from the distillery, 20-minute drive. So it's always been on my doorstep there. So I saw that they were looking for language speakers. I applied, got the job, and I started there as a tour guide. So my role was initially to greet visitors, make them feel really comfortable, and basically walk them through a little bit of a history about Bushmills and explain the production process to them. And within, I would honestly say, a matter of weeks, I completely fell in love with the place, a bit like Alex. And it's something you will never be able to describe to people. There is just something about the distillery itself, the place, the people, and the passion that you see other people have for the brand. It just pulled me in, and the more I talked about it, the more I fell in love with it. And I would say probably about 2 months in to the role, I thought, yeah, I want to do this as a career. So the languages got very much sidetracked, and the whiskey came to the forefront. But it's just been an incredible journey since then. So I was there for 5 years in the distillery, did a little bit of everything really. The tours, a little bit of whiskey education, tastings, and it was 2 years ago I became the brand ambassador for Ireland. So lots crammed into 7 years.
There really is. I don't know about whether you feel the same, but I've always felt like since I started getting into Irish whiskey that because the friends I've made and the connections I've made and the places I've got to visit, that at this stage now, if you took the whiskey away and I got to keep the people, I'd still be just as happy. And because the stories, the people, the places, you can't replace them.
You can't. And the thing is, I think I never really realized, I mean, obviously the distillery is a very, very popular visitor attraction. We are 2 minutes drive up the road from the Giant's Causeway, another extremely popular visitor attraction. And I never realized how many people visited the north coast of Ireland, and also how many people were interested at the time what I thought was this little tiny distillery up in the north coast of Ireland. And it was, there are some people you just never forget. I could probably still remember the people's faces on my very first tour because I was so nervous, and I just clung on to their faces and their expressions, thinking, "Are you enjoying this? Is this okay?"
Yeah.
And there's just some people, as you say, some friends that you meet that you just won't ever replace, and you will never forget. And as you say, if you took the whiskey away, the people are still just as incredible without it. Absolutely.
We're now 20 minutes in. I realized we haven't even started talking about whiskey yet. Alex is sipping away there. She's got a head start though. She's got a cocktail.
I know. I am my Blackbush.
We might as well start talking about Blackbush, because Lauren, this is you are a big fan of Blackbush, and I'd love you to introduce us to this whiskey and introduce maybe an audience who maybe haven't yet come across Blackbush.
Yep.
Talk us through maybe a little bit of its history, and then maybe we'll have a little taste of it.
Absolutely. Definitely Blackbush would be one of my all-time favorite go-to whiskies for so many reasons. A lot of my role, a big part of my role would be bartender education. So I basically introduce bartenders to the world of Bushmills and introduce them to our portfolio. And Blackbush is the one whiskey that has the most stories attached to it. So people will tell me, you know, my granddad got me into whiskey with Blackbush, or he always had it in the cupboard. It's just one of those, it's what I describe as a nostalgic whiskey, because everybody's got a story that centers around Bushmills Blackbush. It seems to be. And I always say as well, you know, the way everyone says you're not allowed to have a favorite child, but secretly you kind of do. Black Bush is like the favorite child of Bushmills. It really is. So Black Bush, it really is. It's such a unique whiskey. It's one of probably the most unique blended whiskey that we'll find on the market. Now, it's important to remember that Bushmills itself is a single malt distillery. So on site, our spirit is produced 100% from Irish malted barley, triple distilled, and that gives us that beautiful, fruity, fragrant floral spirit, what we call the Bushmills DNA, or what I affectionately call Baby Bush. And that is really centered to everything that we do. So Black Bush contains over 80% malt, which is an unusually high malt content for a blend. So that's one of the many reasons people love Black Bush so much. And then 20% is a lighter Irish grain made from corn, a little bit more spicy, and old school, as I like to call it, Black Bush labels, which are absolutely beautiful. I love them. Would have said special old liqueur on them. So that's what they had on the label. And this is probably my favorite story about Black Bush. Basically, back in the day, if you like, every distillery had a good whiskey and a great whiskey. So the original was our good whiskey, Black Bush was our great whiskey. The Bushmills original has a white label, Black Bush obviously has a black label. The locals and people still to this day refer to the original as White Bush. And they started to then, when Black Bush was, a little bit more widely available, people knew a little bit more about it, they just simply called it Black Bush because the label was black. And around sort of late 50s, early 60s, it stopped being called Bushmills Special Old Liqueur and started being called Black Bush. So it's really like the people named it out of their love for it, which I love as well. Yeah. But it's just... Would
it always have been matured in sherry casks, or would that be its DNA historically?
Yeah, it would have been. I mean, things have changed dramatically. As you know, obviously we used to pretty much, distilleries used whatever they could get their hands on, pretty much. But Black Bush certainly was always known for having that deeper character. And you can tell even straight away from the colour when you compare the original and Black Bush together. Black Bush, it has been aged in sherry. It's got that lovely rich golden amber colour. And it's one of those whiskies that for me, every time I go back to it and every time I drink it, I remind myself why I love it so much. It's just Christmas in a bottle, really, isn't it?
It really is. It's a tremendous value, one of the best value blended Irish whiskies out there.
Absolutely. And I think people even see it as well is it's such a high malt content. They feel like they're almost getting a malt for the price of a blend. Mm-hmm. So it really is an all-rounder.
That's a lovely softness to it too. It's you're getting the floral notes from that malt, all right, but there's you're definitely getting kind of that dark, nutty, kind of dark fruit, European oak influence.
Absolutely. And
coming through in as well.
That comes initially, and then Black Bush, it just lingers. That sherry sweetness comes right through at the end, and that's going to stay with you for a couple of minutes. So it's a beautiful little whiskey. As I say, it's definitely one that I certainly return to time and time again.
And we were talking before we came on the air because I got the fright of my life thinking I'd picked up the wrong bottle of whiskey. And there's been some label changes over the past few years, and the label I have says Sherry Cask Reserve. Yep. And I thought, oh God, do I have the wrong whiskey? Should I just have regular original Black Bush? But no, this is Black Bush, but it's just maybe a labeling update. It just says Sherry Cask Reserve on it.
Yeah, the label. There has been quite a lot of label changes to both the original and Black Bush over the past couple of years. For a while, the Black Bush was really front and center, and the Bushmills logo was a little bit smaller. I feel almost as if Black Bush was almost a brand on its own because of the love of it and the affection that people have for it. But certainly it's, as they say, it's one of those whiskies that everyone seems to have a story centered around, whether it's in their kitchen or in the bar.
When I posted it during the week online, people were sharing those stories about memories around Christmas time and the bottle of Black Bush being pulled out, and between Christmas and New Year, the bottle being drained, and just nice family memories around the consumption of Black Bush. Alex, before you worked on the Sexton, you would have been working on the likes of Black Bush and the other, the single malts of Bushmills, perhaps?
Well, obviously, yes, I was part of the Bushmills brand at that time, so would have been learning an awful lot about the different spreads that Bushmills had created and how they actually came up with the brand. So yeah, It was a privilege to be part of that journey and learn all of those things that they had created over the years and how people had fallen in love with the brands and what made them so special. And it gave me a good incline to sort of figure out what I wanted to create and why I wanted to use the types of casks and things that I did.
Are we going to argue and fall out over whether Bushmills is the oldest distillery or not? Will we have a fight over it?
But in Ireland, we always love to fight over something. So, and then pub, come on, we'll have a chat about it, but we'll all go home friends.
I knew that question was coming, Barry, and in front of me, I have a copy of the official license to distill. But no, in all seriousness, I know there is a lot of debate around it. And to be perfectly honest as well, Bushmills does have quite a lot of dates associated with it, and for various reasons as well. So this license was an official license to distill on the 20th of April, 1608, granted by King James I to Sir Thomas Phillips. He was a landowner at the time, to the Bushmills area, signed and dated at the bottom. Now, we had a fantastic archivist who worked in the distillery, and he was actually able to trace back Ishkabaha, the mention of that, in the Bushmills area to 1276. So in some form, some shape, Bushmills has been being produced on the north coast of Ireland since that time. 1784 is...
You're doing great. Keep going. Go on.
1784 is obviously the other date that gets pulled up a lot with Bushmills. That was when we were established as the Old Bushmills Distillery Company Limited, along with the pot still logo, which obviously reflects that really traditional way of producing whiskey that we've upheld for over 400 years. We have the 1608 date on our bottle.
Sure do.
If we didn't believe in that date, it wouldn't be on the bottle. We wear it with pride.
I think we can all agree that the man who had his license, his distilling license granted to him, maybe at some point spotted the piece of land where you now distill, or maybe one point strolled across the green fields that eventually led to this. It doesn't really matter. I'm only teasing you, and I think it's a great story. We did actually a few weeks ago. We had two lads on from the Shite Talk History podcast, and they were great fun. And we pulled up an old ad we had found, an old Bushmills ad from the 1930s, which gave a different. I think it gave a date. I think it was the 1784 date that it gave. In any case, it was a remarkable ad because what it said was you couldn't make up this copywriting, but it basically said that something like 6 out of 10 people agree that after 7 Bushmills, it starts to grow on you. And I thought, wow, like it takes 7 Bushmills and then maybe it'll start to grow on you, like back in the 1930s.
Well, had we quite nailed the marketing campaign back then, bro. 7 whiskeys.
When I walk out my door here in San Diego and I just walk across the street, there's a little billboard that faces me as if it's haunting me. It knows that I live there, and it's a Bushmills billboard, and it cleverly says, "Before bourbon, before America, there was Bushmills." So clearly alluding to before the establishment of the United States and before the bourbon, there was Bushmills. So you're doubling down anyway. Fair play to you. You're going hard at it. You're pulling in hard.
Absolutely. And as you just mentioned, obviously the walking over the green fields of Bushmills, we are genuinely really indebted to the landscape. I'd say probably 99% of the reason why the distillery is where it is because of the water source that we have access to. We source our water from St. Colum's Rill, a tributary of the River Bush, which quite literally flows under the buildings at the distillery. And that's obviously such a key for us as well. So probably why we are where we are, essentially.
And that's not something that I knew for a long time. Of course, I hadn't visited the distillery, but it didn't dawn on me that there is a river Bush and there is a mill that was on the river, and hence Bushmills. And why that's a surprise to me, I don't know. But in my naivete and endless idiocy, I didn't realize. But yeah, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
Huh. Alex, the story then of the Sexton. So this was a new departure for the distillery. How did this idea of the Sexton come about? And would I be right in saying this was one of the first releases that didn't bear the name Bushmills.
That's correct, yeah. So I was very fortunate, as I said, the team that actually trained me and taught me everything I needed to know had a belief in me to allow me loose and to get me to bring in what I felt was going to be something new and something brilliant for the market. So I had a dream of creating a whiskey that was for those that thought whiskey was not for them and for those that really enjoyed whiskey. So I was trying to see what I could do to create it, to make it that little bit different. So I have always loved single malt. So I was always going to create something that was only single malt, that wasn't going to be a blend. And I took inspiration from my grandfather and my father. I always remember as a child growing up, those bottles of single malt. Bushmills was always the one that was there, coming out on the special occasions where one of us had passed exams, we got married, but more often than not, it came out when someone in our family had passed away. But I don't remember those sad occasions. I remember them as our family getting together and telling stories about that person that had passed. Some of them I can't repeat and never should be repeated, about the things they get up to as kids that they really shouldn't have, or the people that they dated and fallen in love. So, it was such a passion that I felt that was the inspiration where it started off. I'd always had a brilliant relationship with the coopers in Bushmills, and one of them, Watson McCook, sat me down and taught me everything about the wood. He told me about how bourbon casks worked, how European oak casks worked, and I just fell in love. So European oak for me was where I was always going to go. It's a much more subtle oak, so it's more porous. The whiskey can do all its work without too much interruption. The bourbon cask has to be set in fire. We had a little bit of toasting with the European oak. It just brings out that subtleness of the wood. Coming from a wood background, that just really appealed to me. So then, of course, I needed to think about my seasoning. What was I going to do? Sherry was always going to be in there. I love the sweet flavors of sherry from my time as a church warden many years ago. And my grandmother, God bless her, used to believe that us young ladies should basically be able to cook for our husbands. And she tried and she tried and she tried to teach me to bake and cook. I am the worst cook in the world. And if my husband is on here, he will tell you I am not allowed near the kitchen.
Hot noodles, Alex.
The wonderful thing is, he used to be a chef. He now makes whiskey. So I let him do all the cooking and I make whiskey instead. So that was my inspiration behind the sherry influence, is to give a little bit back about, basically for me, the Sexton is a story of my life in a bottle. It's about those that made me the person I am. I wanted to create something, as I said, that came into everybody, whether they love whiskey or they don't. And that's what the Sexton's about. It's be able to drink something neat, drink it with ice, drink it with a mixer, or actually bring it in a cocktail and try it your way. Be versatile. No longer do you have to live with the idea that whiskey can only be drank neat or with ice or a little bit of water. We all want to experiment. We want to do things different. So why not do that with single malt? Traditionally growing up, that would have definitely been frowned upon, but the Sexton actually allows you to do that now. So I started off obviously trying to think of my distillate. And the wonderful thing about being able to work in Bushmills was I was able to play about and see what I wanted to create. So I was able to get my distillate that really fruity flavor that I was looking for. I worked then with the Antonio Piez Labata family in Jerez in Spain, and I sourced my oak in France, shipped it to Spain, air dried it for 16 months, and then seasoned it with the most amazing Oloroso sherry. Oh, it's a dream come true. Anybody that ever can travel to Spain and go to Jerez to watch a cask being constructed, it's phenomenal. We only use from the ground to the first branch, and all of those straight flavoursome veins run through the wood. A little bit of oak sitting in the middle, set on fire, and only heat allows that tension then to bring the cask into its shape. Goes in for 2 years with the Oloroso sherry. We bring that out and leave about 5 to 10 litres in the cask, ship them to Ireland where I get to fill them with aqua vitae, the water of life. I fill them with my spirit and I leave them in the warehouse. So what I did was I started from day one, looking at how that spirit changes. Each cask is as unique as you and I, so they will bring on different flavours at each stage as they grow. Some of them will take longer, But for me, the Sexton was coming in at a much more youthful age, a much more vibrant age that allowed you to experiment. I wanted to start off only with first fill sherry casks, but for me, it just wasn't right. It was a little bit too sweet. So I went back to the drawing board again and put some into second fill. So my new mixed spirit went back into the second fill sherry, which has been changed by the sherry that was there before, but also the European oak is still coming that influence through. Married the two together, high percentage of my first fill, little of my second, it still wasn't right. And for someone who has absolutely no patience, as my husband will definitely come in here and say, yeah, that's her, you just have to give it that little bit more time. So I went then and I put some into a third fill. So the European oak is really vibrant here. The nuttiness is coming in, it's complementing the fruit flavors of the sherry. And that marriage just was like the eureka moment of the best moment of my life, where I got that spirit that I wanted. It was something that was really fruity, really nutty, that just works so, so well. I needed then something to put it into. I needed a bottle, I needed a name. What was I going to do with this spirit? So I just didn't know what to do. So I started to think about the casks again that I used. So the casks I use are called butt casks. And they're 500 litre windfills. So they're big and they're chunky and they're bold, just like the bottle. But I can move them. So you think of the whiskey like your life. If you give a little nudge in the right direction, it will carry you forward. So all these big brawn guys, I'm not going to say too muscly, come into this ring and they push the barrel, they're pushing in their foot. And down I come and I can push it. Just give it that little nudge in the right direction. Purposely black, because the best day as a master blender and distiller is the day you release the spirit for the first time from the cask. You get that amazing aroma coming around. You get to see that color for the very first time. So by hiding it away in the black bottle, you got to experience a little bit about what I do every day in the industry. From there, I needed a name. So I started to think back about the reason I started this journey and the childhood memories that I had. So the name Sexton comes from medieval Latin, and it means the caretaker of precious things. I'm the caretaker while it's in the cask, and you're the caretaker while it's in the bottle or in your glass. But it's also represented by this little guy here. So this is our Sexton.
I was going to ask, who's this skinny lad on the front of the bottle?
He's been on a diet. He's been very healthy this weather. This is the Sexton. So he's the guy that lays the body to rest. But the Sexton challenges you that before you meet the man that lays your body to rest, to make the right choices every day, to live a life well lived. And with that in mind, I think it's time for a toast. So raise your glasses and join me.
Hairs are standing up the back of my neck.
Oh, hold on. Well, you can play catch up. There we go. So here, join me in making every moment matter. Sláinte.
Sláinte.
So as I said, this was a journey that started with me. I had the belief in myself and what I had done, and those that were coming from before me and showing me so many things. I just wanted to represent Ireland well. As I said, we launched in America back in November 2017, and in less than a year, we became the #1 Irish single malt in America. To bring it home to Dublin and Belfast in 2018 was an absolute dream come true. And people are falling in love with it and enjoying it exactly how as I always had intended. They're drinking it neat, they're drinking it with ice, they're drinking it with some ginger ale, with sodas, and they're putting it into some of the most amazing cocktails. I love the old fashioned, and I've now found a way of drinking absinthe without actually dying. So it's just such a versatile whiskey that allows people to experience the whiskey that we all love. It gives you that opportunity to come back to drink it neat. So you may start off in the cocktails, but the Sexton will allow you to come back and enjoy whiskey as we in the industry love to drink it neat or with a little ice.
I have so many questions. And first of all, I don't think a whiskey has ever been introduced with such love and such passion on the lock-in. And I just think we need to pause and give a little round of applause for that introduction to the Sexton. There's people crying. There's people crying now across the world. They're just so touched by the stories. I mean, this it's a personal story. It's a passionate story. You're informing us, you're educating us, you're sharing a little bit of you with us. It'd be hard not to be bought into the whiskey after that.
Look, as I say, it's all about giving back. For me, everything we do in Ireland in the Irish whiskey category is just phenomenal. The people are amazing, and I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for those people. So anything I created, I've always wanted to say that it would be the best I could possibly do and put it out there. Yeah, it has to be a love and a desire to do what you do. There's a lot of time and effort that goes into what we do in the industry. Yeah, it's just phenomenal to be part of, and to see people enjoying what you've created. There's nothing better.
You'll have to go back tomorrow now when, after our session tonight, go back and look through these comments and pat yourself on the back and just in the moment, just see what people are appreciating. Because I can imagine that you are on the coalface making this whiskey. You don't often get to, especially the last year, you haven't got to experience people tasting and enjoying it. Just know that there are dozens and dozens, 50, 60 comments here already of just people are just blown away. Blown away. That
is so, look, thank you so much. The support that Sexton has had has been phenomenal. It's a dream come true for me, and I no longer can say it's a job, it's a passion. I would sleep in the distillery and look after the casks. They're like my babies that have gone out into the world now, like a parent that has let their teenage child loose them to university and whatever else. They're doing me very, very proud, I have to say.
Tell me the inspiration for the bottle. You mentioned casks. Is there another connection between the bottle and the part of the world you come from?
Well, obviously we've got our Giant's Causeway stones. So again, the barley I use comes from the south of Ireland, so Wexford, Tipperary. So when I was designing the bottle, I was thinking of the idea of Ireland, and I want to represent the island of Ireland. So our Giant's Causeway stones are on here for anybody that doesn't know. So the Giant's Causeway stones are right on the doorstep, and they are the limestone and basalt rock creations that actually the water of the distillery flows through. So that was the reason I picked the shape. It's something different, but it represents where I come from and a little bit about what we do. So yeah, it's a place that has been steeped in history, and it goes back to even the love of the Irish whiskey many, many years ago. And we kind of fell out of favour, and Scotch took us over a little bit. But we've got our giants there when you think of Finn McCool and Benadoran and how Finn fought for Ireland. So we're fighting our way back up the Irish whiskey category a little bit,
just
like Finn fought for Ireland. So
I got very worried there. I got very worried when you reached. I thought you were reaching for a rock from Giant's Causeway. I thought, oh God, I hope she hasn't taken one. She'll be in jail in the morning.
There are a few loose rocks when you go there. You know, you probably could steal one.
There is an absolute love fest for the Sexton in the comments, but there's one piece of feedback, objective feedback, and I would share it. Is maybe the next release, would you give us a pourer that goes with the bottle so that we don't drip anymore and lose our precious? Oh, look, you've got one there.
Well, I do have to say, I do appreciate this. I am a whiskey maker. I am not a bottle designer, so I do apologize for that. But I do have to say there is a way to pour it. So you think of your loved ones. You think of holding them close and giving them a hug. So when you get your bottle of Sexton, get your glass, put it in under the lip and hold it dear. Tip it over and be gentle, just like you would be with your loved one. No drip.
No pour, no drip, no drip.
No drip.
Solved.
You have to think of your family and your loved ones when you're pouring the Sexton, and that's the whole point behind it. It's about making memories with those families and friends so that after they pass, you have a story to tell and to comfort you in the long hours when you're missing that person.
I have never heard such an Irish way of talking out of the pouring, like to account for, to make an excuse for the pouring, the wonderful romantic story of holding your family tight, but I appreciate it. Johnny says, perfect lesson and a beautiful that's brilliant. No, you've solved that for us, because I think people love the whiskey, and imagine that's the only downside. I mean, that's a pretty good, that's not a bad record.
I would take that every day. Yeah, like for me, the bottle is the inspiration to catch people's imagination. Why would you pick the Sexton over something else? So the bottle does give you that imagination and that, why, let's try it, let's see what it's like. but they're coming back for the liquid. And that is the best thing as a master blender, to know what you've created is what they actually love. The bottle is catching their imagination, but the spirit is what they love.
Between this now and the... Go on, Lauren.
Paul has just said, just drink from the bottle, no issues.
There you go.
Alex, I love what you say as well. You know, if people, maybe they haven't quite met the Sexton yet, you know, they haven't discovered a little bit about the whiskey. I love what you say about the first time you buy the bottle or buy the whiskey will be for the bottle, the second time it'll be for the whiskey, which is so true.
That's it. I mean, people have been doing so many amazing things even with the bottle. I have a wonderful guy, Steve, in Canada, that has actually created me a lamp out of the bottle, and I'm so excited. It will be coming. It's on its way from Canada now, and it is just phenomenal to see how creative people are getting. That's being turned into so many wonderful things, and that's exactly what it's about. It's being creative, and they're doing that with the spirit and the bottle. So wonderful.
Well, when you came here tonight, you didn't know that you were going to get promotional ideas, but Garrett said the next promotional item surely has to be hexagonal whiskey stones.
Oh, yeah, nice.
Like that.
Always thinking.
We'll get it. On Monday morning. We'll go back to the drawing board.
We'll get back on that one.
Lauren, Jamie Cotter, who I'm sure you know well, says, is there a date we can return for in-person tastings? He misses those notes of freshly painted curbstones and fresh wet gravel.
Honestly, you know what? I never thought I would see the day that I would miss Jamie and Phil from Causeway Whiskey Reviews heckling me at tastings about freshly painted curbstones and what's the other one? Wet gravel, I think it is. I miss those guys at tastings giving me grief. Oh dear. I know. Bring back the in-person tastings, as you say. I think everybody just can't wait to have a pint and a whiskey. Absolutely.
These two whiskies that we're tasting are both remarkably affordable too. Like, you can get, depending on where you are in the United States, and it tends to be a lot cheaper to be able to get your whiskey here than it does right at home where you make it. But you can get the Sexton for $24, $25 a bottle. Black Bush you can get under $30 in many places, which is astonishing value for a single malt and for a very high malt content blend. That's such a gift. I mean, that's a gift to us that we can get them that cheap.
Well, for me, I come from a working back family, and to have real memories of those special bottles being up on the shelf and only coming out every so often, I believed I needed to create something that people could enjoy every day, but have that quality of spirit behind them. And that's what the Sexton's all about. It's about making memories now, and we work hard. We have all of those memories that we need to do. So why not have an amazing single malt to do that with? So it's about being affordable and letting people enjoy it their way.
Absolutely. And I think if you have a really affordable whiskey, you also open it up, and Alex, you've touched on this as well, to the bartenders. They love it. They love the Sexton. They love Black Bush. And a shout out to the Irish bartending talent, because I think, Alex, you've seen how incredible it is. It has blown my mind, the talent of the guys out there and what they do with our whiskies. They make it so accessible. They open it up to people who maybe say that they aren't whiskey drinkers, but they can always get them around to thinking differently through the means of a cocktail and the serves that they come up with. It's incredible that the bartending talent that we've seen over the past few years, it's exploded recently as well.
It's an industry that's growing, I think, alongside the Irish whiskey category, and it just complements everything that what the industry is able to do. We all are in there for the same reasons. We are all there to give people pleasure in what they do in their spare time. As we say, we all work really hard. So how you spend that time is really important. And the bartenders just can showcase and make it so much fun for us all on the night out. And we cannot wait to be back out there with them.
I know it's that moment when you say, okay, give me a Sexton cocktail, but surprise me. And they always come up with something just so, they always do, absolutely.
Alex, you were mentioning earlier on there are other ways to drink single malts than just neat or with ice or with water. And so that kind of touches on that point about cocktails. Are there specific or are there cocktails that have lended themselves particularly well to the Sexton since you've launched that you've discovered?
To be honest, I have to say that is the dream part of my job. I've got to see the other side of the industry now with taking the Sexton on its travels. And I can honestly say the creations they have come up with have been phenomenal. There isn't anything they have created so far that I can't taste the Sexton in. And as a whiskey lover, that was the most important thing. So everything from your old fashioned right through to the most glamorous, the most amazing cocktails, there's always something in there that brings the Sexton home. And it just works so well with so many things. They've brought in other sherry profiles, the Pedro Jimenez, they've brought in, as I said earlier, absinthe. And they've just got so creative. It's amazing that Lauren and I both have tried our Sextinis, which are a twist in the martini. And it just, honestly, it's been phenomenal to think how versatile it is. I dreamt of it, but did I ever believe it would be so versatile? But it's thanks to the bartenders and what they are able to do. Mixology is absolutely fabulous. And I really need to get into it more and know how they actually create what they do. And it really gives homage to what we do as whiskey creators.
Patty has just said espresso Sextinis. So basically, myself and Alex have a profound love for swapping out the vodka in an espresso martini and replacing it with Sexton, which have over the past few years been affectionately called Sextinis. And it's actually beautiful. So yeah, Patty knows. Oh dear, he got there.
Credit to the guys.
Talked about them too much.
So you'd both be of the approach of the better the ingredients, the better the cocktail. And if you've got a good whiskey, it should, of course, if you enjoy a cocktail, why not put a good whiskey into the cocktail as well, right?
Absolutely. And having a single malt there that you can do that with is kind of not something of the norm, because you would normally use something of a single, the blended side rather than the single malt, because they're seen as something premium. Sexton is there as a premium spirit that you can do that with. And I have been really fortunate here in Ireland that I'm sure you know at the Merchant Hotel in Belfast. I'm sorry, I have to show. The Merchant has actually taken on board, if I can show this the right way around, hang on, where my camera is. There we go.
There it is.
The Merchant has taken on the Sexton as its in-house old fashioned, which is phenomenal. A 5-star hotel has grasped the Sexton. So for me, it's a 5-star whiskey for a 5-star hotel.
Alex, you mentioned something earlier that I immediately latched onto and wanted to ask you about, and I forgot until now, but you mentioned when you were bringing these Oloroso sherry butts back to Ireland, you're leaving 5 to 10 litres of the Oloroso sherry inside. Can you help us understand why that approach is taken and what the goal is when you're doing that?
So I want as much influence from the sherry as I can possibly get. And obviously the time traveling in the containers, they will dry out and the sherry will soak more into the wood. I want to keep that freshness of the sherry alive. I want to keep that vibrance there of the fruits. So I've actually got a little bit of the wood here now. So if you can see this is actually the inside of my first fill sherry cask. So not all of it will look like this. A lot of it will still be wet, but if you leave it, it starts to dry out a little. So this is the sugars that have actually come from the sherry and they've actually crystallized onto the wood. So you've got a really high, vibrant amount of sherry coming in there. Amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
So this will start to disappear as you go through the process. And it will actually, I've got one here. So you can see here the European oak and the sugars are very slight after the whiskey has been in there. And it has dried out. The sugars have actually gone away. The sherry profile has absorbed into the whiskey and into the wood. And then you can see here on the third, there's absolutely none of the sherry left. So the sherry has all disappeared into the oak or into the spirit that was there before. And we now just see the actual European oak as it was in the beginning. And this is how you can actually change your flavor profiles in your whiskey by bringing in different seasonings and different wood profiles. Can just give you that different technique of how you can produce something different that will work much more subtly for a whiskey lover.
What happens the seasoning sherry after it has done its job? Is that bottled as a different type of sherry, a cooking sherry? Is it thrown out? Where does that end up?
Well, the Antonio Piez Labata family use their sherries obviously for different bottlings and things for themselves. So they do have a bottling version of the Sexton sherry that I use, which is phenomenal to try. So yeah, as part of our brand ambassador kits that we put that out as something that people can actually try and get to taste the Sexton sherry, what it was at the start. So you get the full journey right from the wood, the sherry profile, the whiskey, and how it has actually created. So yeah, it's wonderful to have that journey the whole way through.
I'm obsessed with sherry cask finishes and sherry cask contributions. I love that nutty, dark fruit. Everything about a sherry contribution to me just makes the most rounded, balanced whiskey. And I don't like a distillate forward whiskey. I like the wood to do its job, and I like the wood to take over. And I don't like sherry on its own typically, but the sherry influence on the whiskey is a hallmark of a whiskey I'll seek out first.
Yeah, I totally agree. Sherry just works so well with the whiskey profiles that we have in Ireland, and it just complements each other. It brings out all of the flavour of the European oak as well as the distillate that we have in there, and they just complement each other at every stage of the process.
The way the whiskey industry is growing in Ireland at the moment, there's this savage desire for people to have every whiskey that ever gets released, for people to, as soon as you release a whiskey, 5 hours later, they want to know what's next. And the comments already reflect some of those questions. For example, will we see a Sexton 2, or what's next for the Sexton? Is there a cask strength version? Is there another iteration of the Sexton? Have you anything to share on that, Alex?
Well, as a blender, I'm always experimenting. And I will just say at this stage that I have a dream that one day there will be a Sexton family. I am just so grateful at the minute, and I'm enjoying the fact that so many people are enjoying the Sexton, and I am appreciating that amount of love that is there for it. And it's that journey that I have been on so far will definitely inspire me to create something else. So for now, it's love the Sexton as is there, but watch this space.
Watch this space. I love how diplomatic whiskey people are when they've been typically. I'd imagine that there's this constant battle between those who make the whiskey, those who market the whiskey, those who sell the whiskey, as to what can be talked about, what will make it to market, what won't, price points. There's got to be a daily struggle, a love-hate relationship, is there?
You can also tell people a lot without actually telling them anything, which is what we're very, very good at in the whiskey industry.
The best kept secret.
You should see some of the texts I've got where I'm messaging distillers and blenders, and some of the ways they have of saying, well, all I can say is we're always working on something. The best is yet to come. There's we'd be playing around with this and that. I like experimenting. It's okay. I get it. But will you tell us? No, we can't get it out.
As like slowly passes them another whiskey.
So there's you have a dream about a family. That is great. And you've taught us how to pour the Sexton tonight, which is going to save us. It's actually not going to save us very much money because it's already very cheap. So it's not like we're losing very much money in what we drip down the side. But there is some here on the top of the box I have to lick off later. Okay, so
you have to lick it off, yeah.
Lick it off. Lauren, to those who are uninitiated in the world of Bushmill, so we talked about Black Bush. It's got a lovely 80-year history. The distillery itself, you talked about it being a single malt producing distillery. What else would you like people to know about the Old Bushmills Distillery?
I think, honestly, some of the people. I always say the people is what makes a brand so special. And there's loads of names I could pull out of a hat. Two that have come to mind straight away is Chris and Alistair Keane, Alex, who you work very closely with as well. They are our third and fourth generation coopers that we have at the distillery. And they are two of only about 6 coopers left in Ireland. There used to be 6,000, there are now 6. So it really is such a unique art, a unique trade. I always say that maturation is an absolute art. It's always been my favourite part of the whiskey production process. And they obviously are in charge of almost 400,000 casks that we have on site at the distillery. Father and son, Chris and Alistair. Chris is the son, Alistair's the father. And what I love so much about them, and Alex, you can probably back me up on this one as well, they will not use any new tools. They're so attached to their old tools, the old ways. I think Alistair, he's still using tools that his grandfather used.
Yeah, you can almost see the thumbprints on them where they have been held over the years.
Indentations,
yeah.
And they're so opposed to any, which I love so much. And so, yeah, it's the people that really draw you in. And I think, as Alex said as well, it's the willingness for people to help you. Alex has been phenomenal to me since I started this role. It's people just take you under their wing and just they want to teach you everything. It's absolutely incredible. And as I said, it's something you'll never be able to put your finger on about the place. It pulls you in so many ways. Sometimes, depending on which way the wind's blowing from my house, you're almost certain you can smell the yeast. That beautiful fruity fermentation smell. So it pulls you in. Aromas, people, brand, everything.
Before COVID hit, I believe news was shared of plans for expansion at the distillery. What do we know, or what can you share with our audience about the goals and the expansion plans?
I think absolutely, when people ask, as you said, Barry, as soon as one whiskey's released, everyone asks the question, what's next? It's like, we've just given you a beautiful whiskey and then everyone's so keen to have some more, which is great. I think to answer that simply is to put it into a bit of context. Bushmills is producing approximately 5 million litres of spirit each year. And we are well underway of constructing a new distillery, which is still on the same site as our current distillery. So it's still under the one roof, essentially. And we will essentially be able to double our level of production. It'll probably be September, October before it's completely constructed, completely finished. But I think that in itself shows the direction of Bushmills and shows what we have planned for the next year and many years to come. I think that just encapsulates it perfectly as to what's down the line.
Does an expansion and increasing of capacity mean purely an increasing of single malt production capacity, or would there be a grain component as well?
I would imagine. I mean, the thing is, I always say you can never say never. That's the thing. You'll say one thing and it happens 2 years later. But because Bushmills has been so linked to single malt whiskey, that is the crux and the core of who we are. I mean, when the malt taxes came in 1885, we still continue to produce malt whiskey, as we truly believe that created the most beautiful spirit. And I think because we are so linked to that, there's no real plans to kind of merge away from that. As I said, never say never, but as I said earlier, Bushmills first and foremost is a malt distillery. That's what we do best, and that's what we're going to continue to do.
I appreciate that answer. There's been a lot of change and consolidation and new distilleries. The world of Irish whiskey is expanding, it's changing, and distilleries change hands, and Bushmills has had a kind of almost like a new lease of life over the past few years, hasn't it? In the sense of it seems like from us as consumers, we just see more coming out of the distillery. We see more chatter, we see more releases, and it's almost like there's been new excitement, new investment, perhaps in the future of the distillery, almost like literally a doubling down. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, I think, as I mentioned earlier as well, Bushmills really is back, and I think Bushmills is definitely innovating on a global scale. I think that's very, very clear in what's been happening the past few months. And I think everybody had this view of Bushmills for a while, that we were kind of the sleeping giant of the whiskey industry, which in a sense was very, very true. But the one thing I will say about us, we don't rush anything. We're very stubborn. We take our time, which is to the pain of many people. But we will always release something when we feel it's right and when we feel like it's ready to go into the world. But as I said, the innovation that's coming out of the distillery is incredible. And as Alex mentioned, we're always experimenting. And even Helen Mulholland, our master blender for Bushmills, always experimenting, always working with new casks. And the most important thing for her and for us as a brand is to find casks that complement our new mixed spirit, the Bushmills DNA, beautifully. And when we feel that it's ready, that's when we'll release it out into the world. But yeah, I think we definitely listened to the people in the past few months, and we've given back to what they wanted. That's the number one question at every single tasting tour. It was, when are Bushmills releasing a cask strength whiskey? That was the number one question. But as I said, we always release it when we feel is the right time, and last year was absolutely the right time for us.
One of the as I was messaging, I'm trying to, before lock-ins, I'm all the time trying to get as much information as I can from different people. And I'll end up asking the same question 14 different times to see if people will eventually answer.
Or slightly differently each time.
Slightly differently, yeah, to see, people will give me one answer and I'll say, okay, that's great. But if that wasn't the answer, what would be the answer? But I was trying to get at, what's coming from the distillery. And I got two particularly diplomatic responses, and I'll share them with you because I think you'll enjoy them. And I won't share who shared them. But one of them was, just know that Bushmills is unlocking its secrets of heavily aged stock to the public. Okay, that was one. Without giving that doesn't really give us anything, but it tells us something. And then also, just know that there's a few tricks up our sleeves in the very near future. Again, nothing but everything.
As I said, we can tell you so much without actually telling you anything.
Oh, yep. We'll
Alex is away. That's probably it. But no, you're absolutely right. And it's funny you say that. The thing is we tell you so much without actually telling you anything, which is great. But absolutely. And I think what's so important for people to know, especially when we move on to the Causeway Collection a little bit later, this isn't just a drop in the ocean from Bushmills. Yeah. This isn't just something that we're doing as like a once-off flash in the pan. This is a collection. The clue is very much in the name. And it is something that we will continue to build on for years to come. Absolutely. And I mean, everyone knows that's what Bushmills was capable of. We have the highest single malt stock in Ireland, 400,000 casks. Of course, we're going to have some special things in there. Everybody knows we're capable of it. And I was in the distillery yesterday and got a little sneak peek at the new distillery, which is looking fantastic, but also the new warehouses as well. We've purchased 64 acres of land just up a little bit from the distillery, with the aim of constructing 28 new warehouses in the next couple of years.
That's amazing.
I think, it's incredible, but it just fills you with so much passion to see the brand expanding in the way that people have wanted it to for so many years. And it almost made me fall in love with Bushmills all over again when we initially launched the Causeway Collection back in October. And it just fills you with so much pride for the brand. It really does. It's so lovely to see.
I wasn't so I'm relatively new to the world of whiskey. I have a very amateur kind of palate. I'm still learning, and I'm trying to understand what's what and try and identify flavors and profiles all the time, learning. And it was only a few years ago where, I think it was probably 2 years ago now, where I first tasted what I thought was the most incredible whiskey I had ever had. And myself and my wife, we were sitting in a bar in Portland, Oregon, on the West Coast, and it was a Scotch whiskey bar. And we were sitting at the bar and we were looking at the shelves and we saw a few Irish, but there wasn't very many. But there was one there, and it was Bushmills 21-year-old. And I had never had it. My wife had never had it. And we thought, you know what? I don't care what that costs now. We'll order that. We had a nice night out. Let's take a sip of that. So we ordered 2 Bushmills 21-year-olds, and we took our first sip and we looked at each other and said, "Oh my God, is this what this is what we've been missing? This is what aged Bushmills stock tastes like." And it was a revelation. It was just this incredible fruit bomb of a whiskey that just blew our minds, and it opened me up to Bushmills, because I grew up near Middleton, and for me I was always at Redbreasts and Powers and the spot whiskies, and I think I had just ignored or just hadn't paid enough attention to Bushmills, but that opened the doors. And ever since then it seems like you've just built on that now. 21-year-old was the flagship, and now it's almost like it's taking a back seat to some of the crackers that are coming out of the distillery.
Absolutely, but the thing is, it's so important to go back to the classics and remember why and where it all started, if that makes sense. Like one that I've been continually going back to recently is the Bushmills 10-year. Which it just, I mean, initially released in about 1985, essentially created the Irish single malt category. It's incredible, and it's such a beautiful, easy sipping whiskey. And as you say, yes, there's so many new releases that you sometimes the classics get put to the side for a little while, and then you go back to them and you remind yourself why you fell in love all over again. No, the 21-year is phenomenal. It really is. I know that the 16 would be my go-to, but I absolutely, you have to appreciate the 21-year for what it is. It's an absolute cracker. It may get opened later.
The night is young. You never know. You've got a full shelf behind you.
It gets picked up on in every single meeting, Zoom call, everything is the back bar over there. Yeah.
That's an incredible back bar. Alex, if obviously the Sexton is you birthed this whiskey. This is your child. This is your proud progeny. But when you're not drinking the Sexton, is there a Bushmills expression that gets your attention more than any other?
Oh, I have to say the 16-year-old for me is definitely in there. 21 is lovely as well. So yeah, we've all got expensive taste when we like to try some of the whiskies, and that's, I suppose, where my inspiration for the Sexton came about. It was that quality and that inspiration that you can get from a really aged whiskey, and it's really smooth and it's really beautiful, and how I could create that in something a little bit younger. So the inspiration was there from the likes of the 16 and 21, and the quality that can come through, and how you can create that at something that is younger and a much more affordable price. So yeah, I have to say those are real treats when you have those.
Within the distillery as well, it would be the kind of the favorite, the 16. Obviously, as I say, what I love so much about whiskey is there's a whiskey for every occasion and every situation you find yourself in. I actually had a chat about this with someone earlier, but this is the 16. It's just the depth, the layers of that whiskey. The more you sip over it, the more you strip it back. And I feel like the best way I describe that whiskey is it's one that you close the curtains, put the fire on, sit down and just savor it. And that's the best way to enjoy it. But it's a renowned favorite within the distillery as well, I think, certainly.
One of the revelations to me as I started to talk to people in the world of Irish whiskey, and especially in the two most established Irish whiskey distilleries, Midleton and Bushmills, is that people who work in Bushmills and Midleton stay there their whole lives. And there are people in both distilleries that have been 30 and 40 plus years at their jobs. Is it because they're drinking whiskey? Is it because they love the people? What's the secret?
It's a bit of all of it.
It's going to say a bit of both.
We love the people. We love the job that we're doing. It was so rare many years ago to get into the industry because people just didn't leave it. And that's where I feel very blessed that I was able to, at such a young age, to get into the industry. But for anybody that has that opportunity now to join the industry, because there are so many new distilleries there, jump at it. You will love it. It is a dream come true for anybody. We are an amazing family of people that want to create things for people to enjoy. What better job can you have? Come and join us.
Exactly. And I think, as you say, there seems to be, well, not among everybody, but some people think that there's so much rivalry between certain Irish whiskey brands. But the thing is, everybody is in it because they love the whiskey, because we love whiskey. We love Irish whiskey. We love our little island. And as you say, Alex, it's just a big family.
It truly is, yeah. You'll get no other industry like it. We are competitors to each other. I'm a perfect example. I use the stills at Bushmills. I have my warehouse on their premises, but I'm a competitor.
Yeah.
You'll not get that anywhere else. And they taught me everything I know. It's just phenomenal to see an industry that just want us to grow as an industry, and they want to showcase everything that we can do, and they teach us all the best things we can possibly do, and then let us loose.
Keep your enemies close. Keep your enemies close.
Yeah, that's it.
And you mentioned, I didn't realize that, Alex, you mentioned that the Sexton was the #1 selling Irish single malt in the United States.
It is indeed. I can't believe it. I don't think I've honestly stopped smiling since. People have really embraced it. To go against some of the big guys that are out there within the industry that have got real reputation behind them, that have got the knowledge and everything there, and the Sexton to be peaking all of them is phenomenal. And it just shows how much people are enjoying the whiskey and embracing it exactly as it always was meant to be, for them to enjoy. And it's an approachable, it's a memorable whiskey that they're embracing exactly how I always wanted them to have. And to be #1 in that category is amazing. Like, somebody new like me coming into the industry who really is somebody that shouldn't hold that position, and the brand has just been phenomenal. The whiskey is fantastic, the bottle is fantastic, everything about it for me personally is just a love, and to have other people enjoying it and loving it as much as they do, Thank you so much. I honestly can't say that enough to people. It's thanks to everyone that goes into a shop and buys a bottle or goes into a bar and asks for a Sexton, for the bartenders that promote it, they make it into cocktails. Honestly, truly, thank you so much for the support and everything you're doing for the brand. It really means so much to me. And watch the space what we can do together. So, yeah.
There's been less impressive Oscar acceptance speeches than that.
Well, I know we like to overdo a little bit there.
But you know, like if you were a chef now with your 3 Michelin stars, having achieved the pinnacle of a restaurant, you might hand back your Michelin stars and say, "That's it. I'm hanging up my coat now. I'm done. I can cook no more because I've achieved the best." You don't seem to. No, that's not you. You
just couldn't do it. Like, I honestly think I will live and breathe the whiskey industry until I meet my maker. It's a dream come true to be part of it. It's no longer a job. As I say, I could walk through warehouses to the day I die and be a happy woman for sure. Those aromas that you get to smell. We keep the angels happy. We give the devil his little bit of a cut into the cask. So that keeps everything equal.
You're some chancers, the parody, and it's great crack.
I remember someone actually said to me about it when I kind of delved a little bit deeper into the whiskey industry and starting this role. They were like, "Once you're in, you can't get out. That's it. Like you're that's you," which is so true. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And the thing, like, even when I started. Yeah, when I was 19 in the distillery, I'm now coming 27 in July. It's like, that's nearly my whole working life has been Bushmills. I'm basically married to the brand now. So it's almost like you forget what you did before it because it doesn't matter. You know what I mean?
It really doesn't. Yeah. I think what you can do from here on is what matters. Like, we can all inspire the category. We can grow the category. There's a love there for it. And anybody in Ireland loves it, and the fact that people around the world are now loving it is just absolutely amazing for any of us here in Ireland. We really are.
You've got quite a sinister comment there.
Until they put you in a 6-sided casket.
But as long as you've lived life well, that's okay. Because that's the thing you always know. From the day you're born, you're going to meet your maker. It's how you go.
She's great. That's some comment, like.
We've gone down a whole different route now. We really have.
Yeah. Well, I suppose when you release a bottle with a skinny little fella on the front with a hat like that, you're going to attract macabre comments like that. I suppose. If you've just joined us, you have crashed a lock-in session. I'm joined by Alex Thomas, the master blender from the Sexton, and Lauren MacMullen, Bushmills brand ambassador, and we're having the crack. We're talking old whiskies, new whiskies, what's old, what's happened, and what's coming next. And you're all very welcome to the lock-in tonight. I'm drinking out of a green Chua glass. I know a few of you asked about it. This just finally got into my hands after a month of shipments. It finally got to me today, and a few of you asked if you can get these in Ireland. We can ship them to you. So just go to storiesandsips.com. There's a shop button in the top right-hand corner, storiesandsips.com. We're shipping some of these to Ireland tomorrow for those of you who are interested. And the only thing I ask of you if you're joining us is we don't charge you. There's no entrance fee. This is just a bit of crack. All we ask is that you like or comment or share and ask questions, get involved, and just share the love. If you think there's other people in your friend circle or family circle that would enjoy the crack and enjoy what we do here on a Friday night, just give us an old share and share it to your profile or send an email out to people and let people know what we're doing here. As simple as that. Let me have a look at some of the comments, some of the questions. I think Daryl's reply here to the 6-sided casket is Jesus.
I think Greg has definitely one comment of the night with the 6-sided casket.
That's a whole new industry I don't know that I want to get into.
No.
There is. Well, they send people over to Niagara Falls in barrels, so I suppose they could send us into the ground in a 6-sided casket.
There'd be room for friends and family in a 6-sided.
made from basalt as well, Alex, so you definitely won't get out.
Yeah, there's no pulling that out of the earth. Lots of people saying they can't wait till we all hang out in person. 100%, yeah. And at some point, when the world opens up, we'll of course be doing Stories and Sips trip to Ireland, and we will make sure Bushmills is on the itinerary, and a few nights in Belfast and Northern Ireland, and have a good old time. There'll be no shortages of sessions, I'd say, on the cards.
We're all just itching at the bit to get back.
Everyone, is delighted with the crack tonight. Loving the two of you. You're a hit, which is great. We never doubted you for a second. So what are you sipping on now? So what's in your glass, Alex? You've had all kinds of cocktails and concoctions. I don't know if you're drinking tea or whiskey.
We've been doing a little bit of everything here. So I have obviously the Sexton neat here, which gives you a real idea of what the Sexton's really about. So as I say, I showed you my sherry cask earlier, so you can see the real rich colour that's coming through from the sherry. So it gives you a real idea of what, for me, the Sexton's all about. The rich colour comes from the first fill sherry. On the nose, you're going to pick up that beautiful rich aromas, the fruit, the little bit of nutmeg in there, and you may even pick up the marzipan, depending on your palate. It's when you taste the Sexton, but it really comes alive, and I just love it neat.
Also, can I just say, anyone who has issues with the bottle, which is 700 mils, the travel retail, the 1 litre.
Oh, look at the size of that.
It's even harder.
We have them.
You have to hold it right at the bottom.
I have to say, I think I'm building the Giant's Causeway stones with these.
Honestly,
that's
probably about the thickness. Yeah.
As I always say, I am a whiskey maker. I am not a bottle designer, and the inspiration for the liter bottles came from the American team in the bars. So my time spent with them, they would like it so it was down in the well. It was easier to grab. So that was the reason behind the liter bottle, and to get it into the airports and everything was absolutely phenomenal. And then of course COVID hit. So hopefully we'll get back to normal soon, and people can get it to enjoy it in the travel retail again as well. So it'll be really good.
Does that liter bottle come with a winch and a crane to lift it? The weight of it,
does.
I'd say.
It comes with a hazard warning as well. Just heavy lift. You could do some damage with that bottle.
It's a home gym.
It is a home, absolutely. It's like that. My home workouts they've been doing bicep curls with a bottle of Sexton.
It's a weapon.
No weapon. We love each other in Ireland.
Not when people are wanting to bury you in a 6-sided casket, Alex.
Hopefully I'm dead when they do it.
And that's a comment at the start of the night. What's it going to be like in another while?
In an hour, I know. Jamie's just put a comment that he's stolen a Sexton speed pour. I did not know that. That's knowledge to me.
Are
that's not the only thing Jamie's stolen.
We have loads of lovely little pourers. We actually have a really different one here. Hold on, I just get you.
Steal it.
So we have a lot of different ones here. So we have this little guy here. Oh, hang on, there we go. And then we have this beauty here.
Look at that one.
So we do listen. We listen to all of the issues people have, and we're trying to figure out how we can do things better. We are a new brand to the market, and feedback is always appreciated. It's the only way I can get better at what I do. Not everybody eats the same thing, so why should we drink the same thing? So I always love to get out into the market. For me, as a whiskey maker in the industry, I don't get to understand and experience the merchandising side and the marketing side of things very often. So for the Sexton to go out into the market was a whole new journey for me. And to get to travel to America and understand what people wanted and loved about the brand has just been phenomenal. I got to take the Sexton locally around here before COVID hit, to the local industries and to the bars and to the off license, and actually getting to listen to the people that are enjoying whiskey. And I always found, for those that didn't enjoy whiskey already, there was a reason. They were drinking wine or they were drinking beers, and I always introduced a little bit of ginger ale to them, as Darryl will always know about my love of ginger ale. It just brings down that alcohol content. So if you're just used to drinking the wines and the beers, it's a lower alcohol that you enjoy. So a 40% alcohol is just a bit of a burn for you. So reducing it with a soda or a ginger ale or ice or water just brings it into that profile that you can actually enjoy. And I've actually made so many whiskey drinkers out by doing that. And they buy the bottles and off they go very happy. So to experience that side of the industry and see what that part of the industry is all about, it's just been phenomenal to me. It can only make me better at what I do.
Absolutely. And you're so right when you say that, Alex. Someone genuinely messaged me today and said, I've been a gin drinker all my life. So she's been drinking gin and tonics and lemonade, whatever, her whole life, but wants to experiment a little bit with whiskey. And if you told someone who has never touched whiskey in their life to go straight into it neat, they would run a mile. As you say, it's all about building up your palate, your tolerance to it, getting an initial feel for it, a general kind of vibe for whiskey in cocktails. And as you say, with a bit of ginger ale, a little bit of apple juice, whatever you want to put in it, and building your palate up. As you said, everybody knows if you told someone, yeah, go ahead, drink the 16-year, they would think, what am I doing here? So it is all about building people's awareness and tolerance to it.
It is. We train to do everything we do in life. You learn to do different skills, and your taste buds are exactly the same. They will come alive at different ages in your life and different stages in your life. So it's about finding what is right for you at that stage in your life. And whiskies allow you to experiment at all of your stages and give you something there for everything that you need to do.
Alex, I get the feeling that you're like the distillery philosopher. Like you've got an outlook on life and you're able to tie it to your whiskey making very well.
Well, look, life is precious. We're only here for a short time, and I have a belief that we need to make it a good time. And it's something, you know, as I say, when you're born, you know there's a day you'll meet your maker. So the bit in between is the only bit we can control. So why not control it and live it the best you possibly can? Make all of those friends, make all of those memories that you possibly can. And the Irish whiskey category has been my family for such a long time now, and has really, really grown me as a person and helped me to be the best that I can be. And I am ever so thankful for everybody. I've worked with Lauren now since my first very launch in Ireland, to be in the Dublin Whiskey Festival. It was phenomenal, and to have that experience is just great. We took the Sexton to Belfast for the first year, just before the year before lockdown. And the Sexton outsold every single whiskey.
Oh yes, Belfast whiskey social. Oh yeah, we were two busy women that Saturday back September 2019, wasn't it?
Yeah,
highest selling whiskey on the day. Yeah.
I honestly thought I had more than I needed with me, and we were sold out nearly on the first day. I had to go and get more stock, which was just lovely. Oh, it's bringing her to me. I am sitting here.
I know, I missed this. I know, it's crazy.
Did you both grow up near the distillery, or where did you both grow up?
I'm actually Barry, the same distance you are from Middleton away from Bushmills. I'm about 12 miles away. So 20 minutes takes you there, unless you get the odd cow or sheep that's wandered in the road and then it leaves you late for work in the morning, which it did quite a few times. Yeah. I would be about 20 minutes from the distillery itself. I would be closer to a beautiful little seaside town called Ballycastle, which is again only about 15 minutes away from Bushmills itself. So I'm kind of for want of a better word, I would say something different if I wasn't live, in the middle of nowhere is where I am. But yeah, so very close. And it's so funny because when I was obviously growing up, when you're in your early teens, no interest in whiskey, always knew the distillery was there. You kind of looked at it and thought, what's going on in there? Like, what's this old building that's sitting there? And you just had no awareness of how big the brand was that is literally sitting on your doorstep. And that's why I think I'm married to Bushmills for life now, because it's literally a piece of home for me. And it's just married to it for life. Yeah, absolutely.
You're the same, future lifer.
Future lifer, yeah. Married to the malt.
Like a nun, a whiskey nun.
Oh, that's a new one. I'm going to update my bio after this now, Barry, and put whiskey.
Married to the malt.
Married to the malt, whiskey nun. That's it.
Updated.
Done. Yeah.
And Alex, how about yourself? Did you grew up nearby?
I did indeed. I was born in Ballymoney, which is about 8 to 10 miles away from Bushmills, but grew up in a seaside village called Castle Rock, and looks out over the hills of Donegal. So I was very blessed to be there until I got married and moved to Coleraine, which is only probably about 8 miles. So I think I can do it in about 10 to 15 minutes to the distillery, which is great, unless there's a tractor there, of course, in the summer. But yeah, you can almost smell it from the home place. So it's wonderful. Yeah, it really
It's
is.
in our blood. Yeah, it really is. Yeah.
Even
So
Coleraine, I mean, Coleraine itself has an interesting distilling past, and the Coleraine distillery played a huge part in both Bushmills and the Irish whiskey industry, didn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. It really did. The grain spirit that came from there, absolutely. And funnily enough, that the grain spirit that we use for Blackbush is tried to be replicated as closely as possible to that Coleraine grain spirit, because it is so beautiful. So yeah, absolutely, really interesting history there for sure.
So that grain spirit, that's a really interesting topic, and it's one that is endlessly discussed and could be discussed for days. That grain spirit that used to come out of Coleraine, that went into Blackbush, that it now comes from elsewhere, is my understanding that that's not maize, but it is rather barley in the column stills, or is it maize in the column stills?
The grain spirit is corn in column stills, I believe. Yeah,
it is.
That comes from it. Yeah, but because the malt spirit that we use is so delicate, they marry perfectly together. So as I said, it was trying to be as closely replicated to the Coleraine distillery as possible. Yeah.
Because I know with Jameson Black Barrel, it's a blended whiskey, but the grain component happens to be a kind of a small batch grain of barley that's distilled in the grain, or in the column stills. Okay, so you grew up near there. It's in your blood. There's no leaving it now. You're married to it. You're married to the malt. That's it. What was I going to ask you? Oh yes. So the last few years, then. So let's say 3 or 4 years ago, or maybe you can tell me, when was there suddenly an idea that this old age stock of Bushmills that exists in the warehouses needed to be unleashed in new formats and not sold on elsewhere, maybe to third parties, but rather released under your own name? When was there a decision that it's time for something new?
I think it went hand in hand, as everything really does, with the growth of the Irish whiskey category in general, and certainly the growth of single malt whiskey. And I feel like Bushmills being a single malt distillery, we felt like we really need to have a piece of this action, a piece of this cake, because obviously that's what we know, and people know us for. And I think we always knew that the Causeway Collection was going to be launched in 2020. That was the site that we had set for quite a few years. So the years prior to that were all about building up to it. And as they say, we will never let anything go, as Alex mentioned earlier about the teenage children. We will never release those casks and those cask finishes into the world until we feel like we are absolutely ready for it. And last year, we were hit with the global pandemic, as we all know. We'll not mention that word. But we knew we had to release the Causeway Collection, or I should say the beginning of the Causeway Collection, in 2020. And of course, we were a bit nervous about it. We were a bit worried about how the reception would be about launching a completely new collection in the middle of a pandemic. But people needed that light at the end of the tunnel. People needed to see that, yes, Bushmills is innovating, is developing, this is happening. And it really did give people such joy. And as I said, we always knew it was going to be that year. It might have made their wallets not so happy, but it made their hearts happy, which is the most important thing. I'm laughing so much. Sorry at these comments. You could be married to worse. Married to the malt. That's incredible. Absolutely, Laura. I agree completely. As I said, yeah, I think just with the growth of the Irish category in general, we knew it was time for Bushmills to come back to build on, as you say, what we had laid down many, many years prior, and go with it. And look where we are now.
So tell our audience. So we have audience members who join us from all over the world. We have American audience members. We have a lot of Irish, English, Japanese, Australian. Help us understand what the Causeway Collection consists of today, or what's the idea kind of behind it? So
the whole idea of the Causeway Collection was the real emphasis on rare, unique cask finishes and also cask strength whiskies. So they've been launched in various markets around the world. So various markets, we've been expanding on a global scale, as I said earlier. And the Causeway Collection itself was inspired, as we've mentioned earlier, by our home on the north coast of Ireland. So it was inspired by the Giant's Causeway, but also inspired by the many giants and the many people who came before us. So the many people that we have learned from, that we've built our brand upon, and we've built our legacy on. respecting them and appreciating the fact that this is a collection, a part of history that we can all be a part of and all enjoy in the 400 years that Bushmills has been distilling. So it is something to build upon. I think that's a really important thing to get across to people. This isn't just a little drop in the ocean and we're going to tease you with beautiful whiskies and then just leave it forevermore. Absolutely not. This is the start of something really incredible and something that we will continue to build on for a few years to come.
So I think that in the last 12 months, the launch of the Causeway Collection and the various releases in the various markets around the world have been maybe the most sought after, the most discussed, the most, I mean, people are crawling over hot coals. I believe there was a murder or two in order to get hold of a bottle. Who knows? People went to all kinds of lengths to get hold of. People wanted to build the entire Causeway Collection, which at some point I hope they drink. Yeah.
Absolutely. I agree with you on that, Barry. Whiskey's there to be enjoyed. 100%. Open those bottles. Absolutely. It might be a slightly unpopular opinion, but absolutely. And I know the whiskey we're about to taste was one of your highlights of 2020 as well, wasn't it? Yeah.
It was. Yeah. One of the best whiskeys I tasted in 2020. Blew me away. I've been nursing it because I'm afraid to finish it. I've got a third of the bottle left.
Your bottle is pretty much at the same level as mine, which is hilarious. We did see it.
You probably have more access to it than I do to a replacement.
It's the same level pretty much. So I'm like holding on to it for dear life. Absolutely. But no, it is. And it's the thing as well about the Causeway Collection. Obviously, our master blender for Bushmills is Helen Mulholland. So she's kind of been the brainchild, if you like, of this collection. And what's so special about the 1995 release, the Malaga Cask, which we're going to be sipping, I'm sure, in a little minute. She's been with us for almost 30 years at the distillery. So essentially, this would have been one of the first casks that she actually laid down as her role as master blender. So this is essentially her entire life's work in a bottle. So it made it even more special for that reason.
Amazing.
And we launched the Causeway Collection back in October. So the two Irish releases that we launched were, of course, the Malaga and the Moscatel initially, which was a massive career highlight for me, to be a part of that launch. And I think it's crazy the fact that my time with Bushmills, you'll be a part of the history of the brand, which it humbles you. It really does, that you're part of such a huge global brand and you've had your say and your piece in its growth, and it's spreading the word about it. Basically, it's just incredible. So she was also telling me, Helen, at the initial launch, this is the first time a woman's name has been on a bottle of whiskey. Amazing. And it's also the first time her name has been on a bottle of whiskey as well. So it was special for so many reasons, the Causeway Collection. But as I said, it's really is all about building on that knowledge and the people who have walked before us and led the way for Bushmills. Also, I have to mention, Barry, the fact that you very nearly lost it.
This bottle has travelled and it's chipped, so there's loads of chips on the bottle, believe it or not. So I'm a scourge for creating a bit of content. You know, when I was trying to create a lovely little video in West Cork when we were quarantining, when we came back last year, we were doing our 2 weeks of quarantining before we saw our family, and we're down in Skibbereen, and I thought, beautiful, like the waves were crashing against the rocks. I thought, lovely backdrop. I just got a delivery of the two Bushmills, the 2008 and the 1995, from Bradley's off license in Cork, and they shipped them down. As soon as they arrived, I thought, right, we'll take a quick picture of these and we'll start drinking them. And I went down by the Atlantic Ocean, crashing on the rocks, and I put my bottle down there, and the glass beside it. And as I'm taking the picture, this massive wave comes over the top of me, the bottle, the glass is smashed to pieces, the glass is gone. Where's the bottle? The bottle's gone now, and I see the bottle floating off it is into the ocean. And I let out a kind of a Bart Simpson scream, and I waded into the water after it and managed to grab the bottle out of the water. And the label is all damaged and the bottle is chipped, but just it made for another great story. Absolutely.
And someone very nearly received the best message in a bottle of their life. Basically, it's put it out to sea. Oh my goodness! It was a lovely photo you got anyway. So at least
sure, anything for a bit of content, like anything for a bit of content.
Absolutely.
So there's been a number of releases, and I know that there are more planned for different markets. I'm not going to push you on what's getting released where, because I know that there are some secrets and some exclusives and things that are put in place in order to protect some stories and some release dates. But there is more coming, is my understanding. There are more releases coming from the Causeway Collection.
100%. I think that's the main message that we've tried to get across to people. I think when people see a collection, they think, okay, this is maybe a few releases in 1 year and that's it. But the Causeway Collection is something that we 100% are going to build on, and will certainly build on this year as well, and the years coming. As I mentioned earlier, Bushmills, we have almost 400,000 casks, always experimenting, always figuring out what works and what complements our beautiful Bushmills DNA, and 100% you will be seeing a lot more from this collection. Absolutely.
That's great. That's fantastic. And for those who are in our American audience, I'll talk in a little bit about the rare casks, one of which I have right here, which the night is young that could get sampled yet, this 28-year-old. So why don't we sip on and sample this Malaga cask and talk about it, because it is just a stunning whiskey, and I want to get it in my belly, and I want to hear from you about it.
Absolutely. So the 1995 Malaga was obviously one of the releases that was exclusive to Ireland. So this was a one-time release of 2,491 bottles. It is sitting at 53.5% ABV, so it is cask strength. So this whiskey was distilled back in 1995, which is of course the year that is on the bottle. So we initially matured it for 10 years in our ex-bourbon and ex-Oloroso sherry casks. It was then recasked in March 2006, and we finished it off. I say finish. Bear in mind, a finish of a whiskey is usually anything in the margins of 6 to 9 months. This whiskey was finished for an incredible 14 years in Malaga casks, which is just, it's madness. It really is just that phenomenal length of time. And I think from the nose straight away, you can just tell how much time this whiskey has spent in a cask. Just heard my wallet groan. These comments are brilliant, but
you can throw it into your six-sided casket, Greg.
Six-sided casket made of basalt rock, absolutely. But this, yeah, absolutely. And as I said, this obviously 1995, Helen, our master blender, as I mentioned earlier, this would have been one of the first kind of projects she essentially worked on when she started at the distillery. So it kind of is a labor of love for her. It really is her baby, essentially, as well. And I mean, look at the color.
Oh, the color's unreal.
The color is just insane.
Like maple syrup. It is. Treacle.
It's like an antique gold. You know, I actually likened it. It's pretty much the same color as our beautiful copper pot stills that we distill in. It's literally, it matches that so perfectly. 10 in a row, I'll be divorced. See what I mean? It causes people a lot of joy, but a lot of pain as well. But,
at what point does a finish become a recasking?
Yeah, I would say, yeah, exactly, recasking. Probably when you are hitting around, I would say anything in the margin of 6 to 10 years. You're not talking a finish there, you're talking a full recasking, as I said. So recasking, March 2006. We actually think it was around St. Patrick's Day, which is even more significant considering it's almost 2 weeks away now, or less than 2 weeks away.
And this was an Irish only release. I know there's comments from people wondering where they can find it. And I typically don't share bottles that aren't available in the United States. But the reason I wanted to taste this tonight, and I've shared it in our Facebook group so many times, is it's indicative of a direction, and it's representative of a quality, I think, and a perspective that we've not seen before. And it hints at things that will be seen in America. And that's why I wanted to discuss it.
Absolutely, yeah. So this wasn't an Irish only release. So this was completely exclusive to the Irish market. And this is what really kick-started the Causeway Collection launch. So we launched this bag, it was on the 15th of October last year. And that's when the love affair with the Causeway Collection really began. What was after that? So yeah, Irish exclusive. But as you said, Barry, this kind of, it's a very subtle hint to what we are capable of doing, and the ages of the casks that we have on site at the distillery. And it's just, this is really the building blocks for future releases and what we're capable of. So yeah, spot on. But it's absolutely phenomenal. It's serious coffee. I don't know if you're getting the same.
I'm getting like a sweet leather note.
Yeah. And it's that, yeah, it's just a spice plus
wood
beautiful.
Spice. Yeah.
And the thing about the cask strength as well is people were crying out for it for so long from Bushmills, and why people love cask strength, and more particularly why people love cask strength Bushmills. You can make this whiskey exactly what you want. So if you're finding that 53.5 a little bit too hot, add a couple of drops of water, bring it down to what you feel comfortable with, and that's the beauty of cask strength whiskey. With 40% whiskey, obviously not too much movement there. You know, you feel like when you add a couple of drops of water, sometimes you might lose, you know, a little bit of the character. But with cask strength, you can morph this, you can mold it into exactly what you want it to be. You've just had a sip. I'm about to do the same.
I couldn't wait. Too impatient. It's just unreal. It's just unreal. Plums, figs, black pepper, dark fruit, wood spice. I don't know. I just need to shut up and sip it.
Super. And the thing is, Barry, and I hope you agree with me when I say this, for being a cask strength whiskey, it doesn't overpower the palate at all. The alcohol isn't overpowering. The heat just sits right at the very back of your palate so beautifully. And that for me, it's that woody, earthy undertone, and that is a pure reflection of the amount of time that whiskey has spent in a cask.
So Malaga, oh, I'm speechless. I am. Every time I've sipped on this, I've almost had like a little tear come down my cheek when I sip on it, and just like, you know, just leave me be now. I'm fine. You know, I let me cry. It's okay. Just let me cry. Leave me alone. I want to drink.
Let me have this moment to myself.
Yeah. So Malaga cask. So Malaga is a fortified wine from Malaga in Spain, made from local grapes in Malaga. A fortified wine meaning it has had a high alcohol grape brandy added to during fermentation, stops the fermentation process, retains some of that sugar, that sweetness, but then increases that alcohol and fortifies it, which would have been how they protected it on long journeys on ships going through multiple climates over months and months over the years. And so it's a sweet kind of a dessert wine almost. And you get that dessert sweetness shining through, which you of course do after 14 years in the cask, but it's a rich sweetness, isn't it?
It is. And I think the Malaga cask finish especially complements that Bushmills DNA perfectly. As you say, that dessert sweetness, when you have a little nose of I have a full bottle of the New Mix Spirit right here. You wouldn't be a brand ambassador if you didn't have the New Mix Spirit to bring with you. And it's so important to let people taste the spirit before the cask. Obviously, as I said, we're always experimenting with casks that complement that flavor, but people are actually so surprised at just how fruity it is, and you really do get that beautiful, it's almost like a crisp apple note from the New Mix Spirit. And you mentioned about the dessert wine, the sweetness, that just pulls that Bushmills DNA right through to the finish of the whiskey. And I think the Malaga cask is just a marriage made in heaven. It really is.
There's such a chewiness to it. There's a weight. There's you want to bite it, and you need a knife and fork.
You do, but at the same time, it's like velvet. It's like that velvet, that creamy mouthfeel. It's just pulls you back into the glass every single time. Do you know something? When you could quite happily sit and just nose a whiskey for 10 minutes, you know it's a good whiskey. And I could just quite happily sit and just smell this for 10 minutes. Because as you say,
there's like a wood varnish to it. There's like on the nose. There's a kind of a mahogany meets a kind of a lovely rich polish that you've put on the mahogany.
As you say, like new car leather seats. As you say, it's that. Yeah, no, it's just phenomenal. It's that balance of the richness and the depth of the whiskey, the body, the time it's spent in the cask. But as you say, that spice plum, that richness, that fruitiness. But it's so at the same time, it's so earthy. It
is, yeah. There's that. I wouldn't say the word dull, but there's like this balance or this kind of a frequency that lives just beneath the sweetness that is pulling it back from being overly sweet. Like I get some of this hard boiled sweet on the sides of my cheeks, and then it brings me back and down to ground before it gets too sweet again.
Exactly. I love your reactions to drinking this. It's like the first time you've ever tried it, every time you drink it.
Yeah. No, I'm easily excitable.
But it's and as I say, just the reception to the Causeway Collection has been incredible. It does make you quite emotional. I don't know if that's silly to say, but it really does, because
let's have a group cry here right now.
I agree.
This is a supportive room we're in. You know, we got each other. We can have a little tear. Michael is nearly in tears with jealousy.
This is the part that it's acceptable for us to cry over how beautiful a whiskey is. I feel like if you did this in the middle of a bar, you would get thrown out because people just would think you had a bit too much. But this is just pure appreciation of the whiskey.
It's worth addressing that whiskeys like this they're not accessible. They're not accessible or approachable to everybody or affordable to everybody. These are expensive whiskeys that are designed to be, from what I can tell, a representation of the best of what a distillery can produce. Yeah. Doesn't mean that's the only thing a distillery produces. And I know that, look, I do not take sipping this lightly. I do not for a second take for granted that I have opened a 300, 400 euro bottle of whiskey. Like, if you'd asked me would I be doing that 5 years ago, I'd have laughed at you. But and I don't take it lightly, and I don't want to make it look like these are types of whiskeys that you can only enjoy. And we have on the lock-in, we have $20 whiskeys, we have $25 whiskeys all the time. So not all whiskeys, sadly, are available to everybody. But I wanted to discuss these not to show off, but to show off Bushmills and to show off what the distillery is doing. And I think we should be extremely proud that a distillery can produce these things, because it puts Ireland up here in terms of the best in the world of what they're making. And that's a good thing. That is a good thing.
It absolutely does. And as you say, it is just a phenomenal whiskey. And even the bottle itself, the little subtle nod to the Causeway Collection, you can see just right there that the 6-sided hexagonal. Yeah. Yeah, yours focus is better than mine, Barry. You can do that. But that little 6-sided hexagonal column, just the link to the Causeway Collection. And the thing is, as I mentioned earlier, Bushmills is absolutely indebted to our landscape, and we know that, and that's what keeps us grounded. We are a global brand. We've traveled to all corners of the world, but our location keeps us grounded. We're a grain to glass distillery, so we do absolutely everything on site, essentially under the one roof. We begin with our barley, we finish by bottling the whiskey and serving it to you in a glass at the bar at the end of your tour, when we can tour. And but the fact that we're so humbled by the Giant's Causeway, St. Colum's Rill, the people that have come before us, and I think that's what's perfectly reflected in a whiskey like the 1995 Malaga.
Alex, as a enemy of Bushmills because you're competing with them, even though you're using their stills, did they allow you to taste any of this? Did you get a chance to taste any of the Causeway Collection?
Oh, it's phenomenal. I have to say I've been very grateful to have the opportunity. And I say I can only learn from the best in the industry, and Bushmills are definitely up there. And I'm very grateful to have the ability to be able to use their stills and do things my way. But yeah, if I can be as good as they are in any amount of years come, it would be just great. Because yeah, for me, the Sexton is my legacy. And if people are still talking about the Sexton the way they are Bushmills many years after I'm gone, that is a dream come true, and what a legacy to leave.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's interesting when we have a whiskey of this age. So this is what, like 25-year-old whiskey, and you think back what was happening in 1995. I'm always curious. It's like reeling in the years. And you want your reeling in the whiskey years. What was happening the year Redbreast 27 came out, or when Redbreast 27 was laid down, and Bushmills 21 and Bushmills 25. But I'm reminded that probably, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but back in 1995. Some of the legends of Irish whiskey were in Bushmills. Billy Lighton, Darrell McNally, Colm Egan, Helen Mulholland. The icons, literally the icons of whiskey, the Hall of Famers in the whiskey world.
Absolutely. And that's what I think is so special. And I think that links beautifully into the message of the Causeway Collection, is respecting those people who have come before, the likes of myself and Helen. Billy would have had a say in the spirit of this, the Causeway Collection. I think it just encapsulates a little piece of everybody who has had a part to play in the history of Bushmills over the past few years. And just what Johnny has said there is just literally what Bushmills and the Sexton is about, is the $30 and $300 whiskey. We have one of the most diverse portfolios, which is what we strive to give people. You have your Black Bush, which you can, create in a cocktail, you can sip neat. It's accessible to everybody. And then you have the likes of the 1995 Malaga, which is the real special whiskey, the real whiskey lovers, people who just want to sit and sip and savor a bottle of whiskey. And it's accessible to everybody. And that's what I love so much about it. There is something, I have said this since the day and hour I started in the distillery, there is a Bushmills for everyone. And I still believe that.
And how many times have you both gone through airports and duty frees and seen the top shelves of the duty frees are always MacMullens and Bowmores and the expensive scotches, and you're wondering, well, where's Ireland's representation up there? And historic, that we've come out, we're only 20 years out of a lost century of Irish whiskey, and we're only kind of really finding our feet again in terms of these premium products and a market that's interested in buying them. So I think that we should be celebrating and heroing the whiskies that we can't afford, and maybe they're aspirational in the sense that someday we'll either maybe get a chance to taste them, but just as important, they are fulfilling an important niche and an important position in the world of Irish whiskey, and they are going to hero the rest of the industry because of their premiumization and their representation on the shelves.
Absolutely. And I think that's the thing as well, we've talked about recently, is people do seem to be choosing premium now as well. People are saving a little bit of money, and they are choosing high quality single malt whiskies, for example, like the Sexton, even like the 16 to 21 year. People are opting for quality, and you are seeing that premiumization within the Irish whiskey category growth as well, which is obviously great to see.
Absolutely. It really is. It really is. I want to talk about the rare casks for the US. I know you're representing the Irish market, but there are some interested folks who have their credit cards in their hands dying. Their checkbooks are out, and they've written the first few numbers down and who to make their check payable to, but they want to know what they're buying. So the first time America got access to a really old post Bushmills 21-year-old was last year with the release of this 28-year-old Bushmills in the Rare Cask series. And it's a 28-year-old. There are only, if I recall correctly, 500 bottles. Let me see. 800. 800 bottles were released. This is bottle number 444. And first of all, I love the purple. The purple color is very royal and regal. It's beautiful. The Rare Cask series has had a lot of attention. This is an incredible series as well. It kind of goes hand in hand with the Causeway Collection. This was the first release, the 28-year-old, and it was released in very limited quantities, 800 bottles throughout the United States. It was released initially through Flaviar, the online store and membership club. And I know many of you are interested in what comes next. And we don't have all the information, because there are some secrets and there are some things at play, and there are people that have things need to come together before we can get all the information. But what I can share with you is this. This was the first release. There will be an annual release in the United States. So the next release is expected end of Q2, early Q3. So July, August time is when there's expected to be another release. Nothing is confirmed until we see it. Nothing is confirmed until I get a press release from Bushmills saying this is what it is. So I am entirely hypothesizing based on some information that was shared with me. There was a selection process for what the next release would be. So those who were members of Flaviar last year, back in October, had the chance to purchase one of 200 sets of 3 different samples of rare casks. And those samples were designed to elicit feedback and solicit input on what might be a favorite, what might be checking people's boxes. And the 3 samples that were shared were a 1992 Single Malt PX cask, a 1995 Single Malt Marsala cask, and a 1997 Single Malt Crystal Malt. And those 3 rare cask samples were sent out to 200 people who were fast enough to buy it. And my understanding is that based on the feedback, one of those will be the next release in the rare cask series. That's all we've got. I've got no more for you. Don't be hounding me. Don't be knocking on my door. Don't be phoning me. Don't be calling me. Don't be messaging me. That's all you've got. That's all I've got. So stay tuned and we'll find out more information when we can. But that's what was shared with me. That was shareable. And I'm not one that has any interest in scooping a distillery and releasing something before they want to release it. That's entirely up to the distillery, their own timeline. So that's the rare cask series. Okay, that's out of the way. That's done. It's gone. No more.
You're right, though, Barry. It kind of mirrors the Causeway Collection in a sense that it is a series that will be continued for years to come, as you say. So it kind of mirrors the Causeway Collection in a way in the US.
And I will refer to an earlier comment that I received via text that I shared earlier, which is looking through my texts here. Oh yes. Bushmills is unlocking its secrets of heavily aged stock to the public. Boom.
That's it. One-liner, all you need. But
that's it.
Interesting you talk about the crystallized malt as well. Yeah. I'm sure you probably tried the maybe 1608 anniversary.
Tell us what is crystal malt. Help us understand crystal malt.
Crystal malt. So we released obviously the 1608 400-year anniversary back in 2008, which was also the same year that the Old Bushmills Distillery featured on the Bank of Ireland notes to mark the 400th anniversary of the initial license to distill. So we don't put our politicians on notes in Ireland, we put our distilleries. That's when it started to feature on there. So the crystallized malt, basically, to explain it in terms that makes sense, it's when the barley's roasted after the germination process. When we soak the barley in water, let it sprout, we roast it after germination, which means that creates almost a layer of browning and of caramelization, and that creates the most beautiful sort of red hue within the whiskey, but it also means that you get those insane toffee caramel flavors. It's almost like intensified sweetness, and I have a really, really sweet tooth, so I fell in love with the 1608 anniversary. I have tried it in my 7 years with Bushmills. I have tried it twice. So that's how how limited edition it is. I remember they had a tiny little drop in a bottle in the cupboard behind the bar when I worked there. So I tried it when I worked in the distillery, and I tried it 2 years ago. It was actually during Belfast Whiskey Week, if Paul is on somewhere. And that was the second time I'd ever tried it. So it's an absolutely beautiful whiskey.
So it'll be interesting to see if that is the one that's selected.
Yeah.
Question from Mark, is number 2 going through Flaviar? Yes. So if they send out the 3 samples, you can bet that they're going to release it. Whether it ends up in other stores afterwards, we have yet to see. This 1995 is hitting all the spots on the way all the way down, I'll tell you.
It's I know. I might have to top it up. I'm running low on my
you might have to.
Very precious of it, as you said. Very
I know,
precious.
sure. I have another bottle squirreled away in Ireland for when I get old and grey, and I'll find it when I'm emptying a cupboard, and I'll go, oh, I forgot I stored that there.
I also have another bottle in my spare room, so but I don't want to touch that one just yet, so I'm going to savor the few drops of this one.
So 2 of the other whiskies that were released in the Causeway Collection that I have here, one is the 2008 Moscatel, which I haven't had a lot of. I've only had maybe 4 or 5 pours, but I might have that one next. And then there's also the 2001 Fayette cask.
You are one of very, very few lucky people who managed to get your hands on that. So the Fayette cask was launched exclusively into the whiskey shop in the UK. 168 bottles sold out in 2 minutes. So you were very, very lucky. I have a little sample of that one somewhere back here. Yeah, it's somewhere over here.
I've not tasted it. I'm the way people are talking about it, I'm almost afraid to open it now. Such reverence and such rarity. No.
Yeah. I would keep it for a while.
Send me over a sample there.
stick to the Moscatel for now, definitely. I have to say, to be honest, obviously I adore the Malaga cask, but for me, within the Causeway Collection, certainly the Irish releases, it was the Moscatel that stole my heart, as you know, Barry, because I could not stop talking about it last week in the Cork Whisky Society tasting. So it's my baby out of the Causeway Collection, absolutely.
That'll have to be the next one, so that I crack into. But Alex, is the only thing you're drinking so tonight Sexton? Is this you are on brand? You are 100% brand aligned. Is that what I'm understanding?
I have to say, yes, I am extremely loyal to my brand. I absolutely love it. So I have some here. I have a little bit of neat here. I have a little bit of ice and water here. I have a little bit of ginger ale and cocktail kind of going on. So yeah, I'm just listening to the wonderful news about the Irish whiskey category from Lauren here and all the amazing things that's coming out of Bushmills, and thinking about what I can possibly do in years to come. So it's phenomenal what Bushmills has been able to do, and if I can even make a small dent in that kind of quality, will be just amazing for myself. So
I'm looking forward to seeing how you build that family of whiskies that you have a dream of. And I don't know. I think Lauren will agree with me. There isn't a more passionate proponent of single malt whiskey than yourself.
I truly love it. Honestly, it's something about the single malts when you go there and you work with it and you see how amazing it is. I honestly think the angel share seeps back in somehow, and it's in the blood, and there's just no way you can kind of explain it other than that, because everybody that has ever worked in the distillery just loves everything they do, and they're passionate about any brand that comes out of the distillery. We're all there for a reason. It's to represent Ireland well, and that family feel is just there amongst everybody from that works in the distillery to the marketing team. We're there to just showcase what we can do, and people are enjoying it, and that makes it really good for us, so we can then experience and do different things. Bushmills is bringing out all these amazing different Causeway collections now, and it's because people love Irish whiskey again that we're all able to do that. Sexton wouldn't be here without that love.
No
Causeway
doubt.
wouldn't be here without that love. So keep loving us and keep enjoying us, and we keep doing what we do and creating wonderful whiskies for you.
So I know you've got very
Mark.
diplomatic. No, I'm sorry. You go ahead, please.
No, I was going to say, Alex, you were saying about single malt whiskey and people. The funny thing is, it was the Sexton that nearly brought us together as well, because obviously Alex and myself worked together in the distillery at the same time, but Alex is always behind the scenes and we were always in front talking to visitors. So you never really, people, and obviously you sing hello to them when you pass them, but it was Whiskey Live 2018 that myself and Alex discovered a profound love of whiskey and cocktails, and it's never been the same since.
It hasn't. Whiskey Live has got a whole new meaning now.
It doesn't it? It does. And myself and Alex we've always promised. Well, we've talked about getting a Sexton logo tattoo, but we're not brave enough to go and get it. But it's something that we
should get it.
So the positioning of this. Yes, absolutely.
If you both get a Sexton pourer tattoo, I'll get a Sexton pourer tattoo as well, to mark the proper pouring out of the bottle.
Can we have that in writing, Barry? Is that a written promise? This is something that when you come over to Ireland again and make it up to Belfast, it's something that we'll reconsider back at that time.
Yeah, my body is a brand canvas for whiskey tattoos, for sure.
Well, I will let you take the first pick for the Sexton, so you can tell us where you think that.
That'll be global brand ambassador for life after that.
That's it.
I've met brand ambassadors that proudly wear their brand in tattoo format on them, and they're just all in. Like I've seen lots of like Jameson Sine Metu, the Latin Sine Metu on arms and elbows, and not cheeks or faces yet, but other parts of the body. It's only a matter of time.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, absolutely.
As someone who has a birthmark on her neck and has had the treatment for removing tattoos done on it, I have to say, hats off to anybody that gets a tattoo. I am a coward in comparison. And will definitely be a day of whiskey taking before the tattoo comes in.
Johnny reckons I should get one under the turtleneck. Yeah, I could just revert back to the turtleneck, and my whole neck could be just brands, just different whiskey brands.
Just reveal it. Just reveal it. Bring it down.
Yeah. Tonight is brought to you by Jameson. Thanks, brought to you by Bushmills.
No, Barry, what you need is the temporary tattoos that wash off after 2 weeks. So if anything goes on the podcast, you can just bring the tattoo down.
You need to have a real one of the Sexton, a real one.
The speed port. I'm holding you to that, Barry, when I see you over in Ireland.
We all have to go. That is a group day out for sure.
You have permission to look under the turtleneck to see is there a brand.
Absolutely. That's a Stories and Sips day out to the distillery and to get a Sexton speed pour tattoo.
A week. Cool Running on YouTube has a question for Lauren. All the different expressions of Bushmills released in different countries, are they available for us natives living 46 miles from the distillery?
So the Causeway Collection, we have shown a lot of love to the Irish market, and we need to show a lot of love to other markets as well. And it's all about knowing your markets and knowing what people will really appreciate being launched into their market. So there will absolutely be phenomenal releases coming up for the Irish market. So the natives living 46 miles away and the general radius of the distillery, absolutely, you will have some beautiful Causeway Collection releases in the not so distant future. I know a lot of people have acquired Causeway Collection releases from other markets through auctions and various whiskey auctions and things like that as well, which is always an option. But I promise you, the home market Irish team will get a lot of love. Don't you worry.
There you go. A proper answer. And I thought we'd done away with the word natives, but clearly it's coming through anyway in the question. But if you live locally, you're a native.
A native, absolutely. No, native's good. Native's good, absolutely.
I'm going to move on to another Causeway. I'm going to move on to the Moscatel because I'd love to have the pleasure of drinking it with you both and just learning a little bit more about it. And it's your baby, Lauren, after all.
It's my absolute baby. Let me grab the bottle. So there we go. Got slightly more of this one because I'm more precious with this one. I need a glass. Bear with me 1 second, Barry.
You're grand. Yeah, I'm running out of glass too. Yeah, I hear you. Alex came prepared with 47 different glasses, all containing different versions.
All branded by Sexton. All my lovely shape of my hexagon stones.
You are more on brand and on point than anyone who has ever appeared.
Oh, I just love the market side now. To get on that side of it is just such fun, and to be part of a brand like the Sexton that allows that kind of creativity is just great.
Stacey said she'll get a Stories and Sips tattoo in exchange for a bottle of Malaga. I mean, I'd be willing to offer up samples of the Malaga if somebody was willing to get a Stories and Sips tattoo.
I mean, yeah, that's quite an exchange. That's a good offer. Someone mentioned earlier about the noise of the cork coming off a bottle being the best noise in the world. I agree.
That's right.
No, as you say, Barry, this was my baby from the Causeway Collection. So this one pretty much sold out in Ireland within about 2 weeks. So this was really, really the special one. And I think it also showed us the demand and the desire for a whiskey of this age and at this price point as well. I think that's what was really reflected with the Moscatel. And I mean, I love the bottle of the Moscatel, like the rose golds and the little stripe of red. It's absolutely beautiful. So this one, obviously the Moscatel cask, it is sitting at 56.4. I'll do the tattoo for a sample. You've got yourself into a whole. You've opened a whole can of worms here.
That's fine. I'll give out samples if we can make a gallery of Stories and Sips tattoos. That would be amazing.
Absolutely, that's a great marketing objective there. So yes, the Moscatel cask. So this was a release again, exclusive to the Irish market. We launched it at the same time as the Malaga cask back in October 2020. So this was 1,454 bottles, so 1454, sitting at an ABV of 56.4. So just a little bit higher again than the Malaga. So the Moscatel, of course, the year on the bottle was distilled in 2008. We matured this one for 8 years in our ex-bourbon, ex-Oloroso sherry cask. It's a beautiful bottle. Ex-bourbon, ex-Oloroso sherry. Again, recast in March. This time it was March 2016. And we finished it off for a beautiful 4 years in the Moscatel casks. So the Muscat grape itself, it's more or less characterized by the almost floral kind of orange blossom note. And I describe the new mixed spirit as floral. So again, a beautiful marriage. So this, the color of this, the Moscatel, is more of a rose gold color. The Malaga is a little bit more of a kind of an antique gold. But I mean, it's so floral on the nose.
It's more like delicate, isn't it? It's more subdued than the Malaga.
Very much so. I feel like the Moscatel is a little bit more delicate. It doesn't kind of shout as much as the Malaga would, but it's that beautiful, the floral, the caramelized sugar. It's so sweet. Orange flower. I am obsessed with this whiskey. I think they laughed at me the first time I had a sip of it because my face told you everything you needed to know about it. But quite like you with the Malaga barring actually as well.
Yeah. Lauren, tell us about the Moscatel grape, and what do we know about Moscatel?
So the grape itself, so the Moscatel casks themselves are roughly the same size as hogsheads, but the Muscat grape, it's a white grape, and as I said, it's characterized by those beautiful floral aromas, almost jasmine, orange blossom. And as I said, that's exactly how I would describe our new mixed spirit, is floral, fruity. It's beautiful. And I feel like out of the whole Causeway collection and the whole cask series, the cask finish, this has been the one that's complemented the new mixed spirit the best, personally, I think anyway. But it is that orange blossom jasmine. And I feel like that from the Muscat grape, the qualities, it just pulls the whole way through. You're savouring it now.
Really way.
Like, let me concentrate while I figure it.
I mean, I'm not really needed on this show. Like, you can run this show. I'm not needed here. I'm just here to sip. You both can run this easily.
But again, it is obviously, I think on the nose especially, the Moscatel is definitely a little bit more subtle than the Malaga, but I feel like even again for being that little bit higher ABV, it doesn't really, it's not going to blow you away. It doesn't overpower the palate. It's just that initial, it's quite citrusy.
It's so different to the Malaga cask, isn't it?
Completely.
These are different beasts completely.
Worlds apart. Absolutely worlds apart. But again, the Malaga cask, the heat is right at the back of your palate, but it's the vanilla that comes back at the very, very end. And it's just, I'm obsessed. I can't actually put it into words.
Yeah, that orange, and getting that spicy orange, cloved orange.
And it's the sweetness when on the finish comes right back again, as opposed to the kind of citrus, the touch of wood. It's the sweetness, the creme brulee just hits you right at the finish again. Similar to Blackbush, not obviously there's huge differences, but similar in the finish is that the lingering sweetness, the rolling finish. We had
on one of our lock-ins recently, we had that word lingering, and the The audience said, no. Lingering's a bad thing. That's the person at the end of the party that won't go home. What you want is somebody who, there's a different phrase that's, lingerer is like that guy at 3 o'clock in the morning still sitting on your couch who wants to tell you a story about the 1976 All-Ireland final. And you're like, go home, go home.
Absolutely. Well, Stacey's just said I love a whiskey with floral notes. Me too, absolutely. I have the sweetest tooth in the world, so the Moscatel was absolutely right up my street. But you mentioned about people sitting on your sofa and not leaving. You want us to sing, Barry? That's how you clear a bar. Get myself and Alex to sing. That's how you get rid of everybody out of your
living room. All right. Okay, so listen.
We actually get free drinks, Barry, every bar we go into, because we make a promise at the end of the night that Lauren and I will both sing, and we are really good at Faith by George Michael.
Faith by George Michael is his classic, yep.
I have to say, we clear every bar we go into.
We're ready for it. We're ready for you to clear.
You've always
get rid of these people. Get rid of everyone.
I honestly do not think that any amount of whiskey would make me sing. And not in front of this many people either.
Lauren, that's a challenge. I have to accept that challenge the next night we're out.
Is that your post-lockdown aim, is to get me to sing karaoke? Done.
Well, I mean, look, the lock-in, any good lock-in ends in some kind of shenanigans of the entertaining variety. And when I messaged you during the week and I sent you an email and I said, looking forward to hearing you sing, and you replied, oh, no. There'll be no singing. We're great dancers, though. And I thought, wait a second. Wait, we've never had dancers. We've never had dancers on the lock-in.
Goodness me. I don't know about you, Alex, but that might require a few more cocktails in there for us to actually start throwing some shapes.
Well, I have to say, usually after Dublin Live or Whiskey Live in Belfast, we have definitely strutted our stuff on the dance floor. But yeah, there's maybe been a few more whiskies involved.
We have. There's definitely.
That's grand. I'm not going anywhere. I can sit it out. It's only 20 past 6 where I am.
Yeah, it's only 2:30 in the morning here. Sure, it's early.
But usually, Alex, at Whiskey Live in Dublin, we're only getting started at this point, so we're doing well.
I've been on site since 6 a.m. this morning, making the wonderful whiskey that I'm talking about tonight. So yeah, I'm still going at 2 in the morning the next day. That's good.
Listen, this crowd, I always maintain when it gets to this time of night, this is the crowd that sticks around. This is the crowd, and they don't like me labeling them this, but they're the crowd that go to funerals to make sure that the person is dead. You know, it's that kind of crowd. And we love them for it. They'll turn up and they'll stay. And here they are. This is our crowd.
Hardcore, that's what we love in Ireland.
Those are the type of people that I am friends with. So absolutely, yeah, bring that to me.
For our Michael, have a good night out.
Michael, for the Green Glens of Antrim. Michael, I'll send you a link, Michael, to join us, and you can come on and you can sing the Green Glens of Antrim till your heart's content.
Please, if anyone can sing. Lingers. I'm never, any of my tastings anymore, I'm never going to say the word lingering without thinking of this. I'm going to have it in my head now that it's a bad thing.
Like nobody likes a malingerer, you know, like a malingerer.
No, it's like a hanger-on, not good.
It's not going anywhere. The crack is still 90. Let's keep it above 90.
Keep it above 90, absolutely.
That's it.
Johnny says you're all invited to his funeral. Six-sided
casket. Only if you're in a 6-sided casket, Johnny. That's the rules.
Yeah, definitely.
We'll toast you with a bottle of Sexton.
100%. Send you on your way happy.
Yeah, one of the big heavy ones. That'll send you down. I saw a picture the week of somebody took a picture of their shelves, of a shelving unit that can hold your whiskey, and it actually folds up into a coffin. So when you're done with this side of the life, you know, you've had something that held your whiskey, now it'll hold you, and it can be lowered into the ground. So I think that's you know, there's all kinds of brand extensions that are possible, and I'd urge the Sexton to not dismiss them.
Absolutely, I am open to all ideas, and that is definitely one that's catchy.
Whiskey.
Oh yeah, what's this? Done. Whiskey always tastes better at this stage.
Yeah, it does.
I think whiskey always tastes better with people. I think we can all agree on that. But albeit virtually in person, whiskey. That's how whiskey's meant to be. It's linked with the culture and heritage of Ireland. You're supposed to enjoy it with people and your friends. So absolutely.
That's it. And as COVID here, we've all found a way. Virtual media has definitely given us an inspiration to meet people across the world that we probably wouldn't have met. So we have to be grateful for something on that side.
Absolutely.
But will we ever be able to properly hang out with people again? Like, will we know what to do? You know, like, have we untrained ourselves?
I think I've lost every social skill I'd built up for the past 26 years. I'm going to have to relearn how to act in public.
Well, personally, I have to learn to walk in high heels again.
Same.
Unless the steel toe cap starts to get a high heel, it's not happening, unfortunately, during COVID. So yeah,
I know. I feel like even because you've lived in bed socks and slippers for the past year, when you put on any form of shoe, your feet's just like, nope, not having this. Now, Barry, if you do not strut up to us at a stand, be it in Dublin, Belfast, Cork, in high heels, I'm going to be very disappointed.
Yeah. The question is, how many people have been in Zooms and pajama bottoms and slippers is in below?
Always.
What do you think I'm wearing now?
Fluffy slippers.
Alex, that's what I describe as business in the front, party in the back, and that's the perfect definition of that. Is exactly what it is.
It's not a mullet I have. Laura
Sorry, everybody wants you for a funeral now.
Oh, I know, yeah. Bar mitzvahs, funerals. I'm not a proud man. I'll take your money. Laura says, we'll be absolutely fine. She'll be hugging the parish. Laura will be hugging away. I don't know. I don't know what I'll do. I don't even know what to do with my hands anymore. Like, what do you do? Like, where do we put things? Like,
no. Or feet touching. That's what we're allowed to do.
So, everybody's been a big fan of the elbow bump recently.
I think to be seen out in public again for your whole face will be really strange too, because we've all been wearing our masks and playing, and we have to appreciate there's so much involved in COVID, and we're all being very good at staying at home and wearing our masks and doing everything, and it's thanks to that people are still able to go to work. But we all really enjoy the fact that when we can get out and actually give each other a hug and a kiss the way we used to do and enjoy the company.
I know.
Go ahead, Laura.
Sorry, Barry. My initial reaction when I see people I know is to hug them, and it's that moment you kind of forget yourself and you go and you're like, oh, sorry. But I
totally agree. I'm a natural hugger.
So am I, and I think in this industry we're in it because we love whiskey, but we love people, and we love talking to people, and that's your initial go-to is to give everybody a big bear hug.
Get away.
2 meters. 2 meters.
Where do you want to go and hang out when all this is over? Like, what are the pubs and the spots that are good session spots for both of you?
But so I went to university in Belfast. I lived there for 5 years, so it has an insanely special place in my heart. And there's so many bars you could call out. But in terms of sitting amongst people, listening to an Irish trad band, pint of the black stuff. I nearly said a pint of Blackbush, not a pint of Blackbush, a dram of Blackbush, a pint of the black stuff, a measure of Blackbush, sitting there, buried amongst people, amongst your friends. The Duke of York in Belfast is the one that comes to my head when you say about sitting amongst people. And do you know what? And the thing is, I think with everything that's happened in the past year or so, I really hope that people gain an appreciation for the little things, like walking into a pub on a Friday afternoon or a Friday evening after you finish work, sitting with your friends, having a catch up about the crack during the week, and just enjoying life, really. And I really hope that is the takeaway from this year. And I also think it's been a blessing for hospitality in general and all the bars that we love so much all across Ireland. I think people have gained an appreciation for what the pub means. Yes. And it's a community, it's the people you love, you miss that. And I think that people will have a newfound love for the hospitality industry after this, which I hope anyway, but that's what I miss is,
Yeah.
Totally. Well, for me, it's my local. I have a wee local called here called Johnson's, the Real Me Arms. It is run by the most phenomenal lady. She is just Claire, is just fantastic. She invites everybody in with a smiling face. If you've ever been there, you'll feel as if it's somewhere like Cheers, you've been all your life. And if you don't know that you've gone in, you'll feel exactly the same. You'll get that welcome that's there. They experiment with cocktails. They have a great bar. We go in and watch football. We do all sorts of things. Music is obviously part of it as well. So we always get a little dance there as well. So nice. I can't wait to get back there and show support for my locals and get that bar industry back up and running again, because we do miss it and we appreciate they are having a hard time at the minute. And us in the industry are here to support in any way we can to get those industries back up and running again as soon as COVID allows us to be there. And we will definitely be there to support them.
Alex, what I took most away from that there now was that you dance somewhere, therefore you can dance, therefore you're almost ready to dance, is what I'm hearing.
Alex, have you just moved away from this? We've got away from this.
I can dance sober, I can dance with whiskey in me, I can dance with a lot of whiskey in me. And look, it's about getting up there and enjoying yourself with friends. You may have a handbag in the middle sometimes, or you may not. So you just give it a go. That's a good night out. You have to be there and enjoy all of those kind of silly nights out and tell the stories the next day, and hopefully no injury.
That's it. That's right.
Oh, you know what though? I think after all of this, as you said, Alex, it's so important to get out there, go for a drink, go for a meal in your favorite pubs, your favorite restaurants. Go and support the people who need it most, and the people who've been there for you since day one and supported our brands and things like that as well. I honestly think I'm just going to go on a massive Irish distillery and pub tour around the whole island. Just start absolutely just go all the way around.
Yeah, take me.
We do stories and sips tour at the end of the year. Yes, let's do it. Absolutely.
Brilliant. Yeah.
Definitely. But I saw
the first chance, as soon as the world opens up, like as soon as it's safe to go back into Ireland, I am chartering a Stories and Sips plane. We're coming over. Like there's going to be
a queue of buses, and we'll just pile on them and just go around all of the brilliant pubs and bars we have here in Dublin and Belfast and everywhere, and just start off and go the whole way through.
It'll be the messiest session of all time, but it'll be brilliant.
It'll be one you'll never ever forget for sure.
Sorry, I'll even go back to my tour guiding days and take everybody around the distillery on a tour, and then bring you up on a pub crawl in Belfast an hour down the road.
Yeah,
it's all here now, recorded. We have it here. Proof.
You have it, you can't backtrack now, absolutely. But I saw a video the other day. You know, with how your memories come up on your social media, like your archives and things like that. And it was a video of me the night before my graduation in Belfast, in the Cathedral Quarter, which is where the Duke of York is. It's just amazing, just a street in Belfast where everybody gets out and has a dance and has a drink. And it was a video of us dancing to Tell Me Ma. I hope people know that song. Yeah.
Actually, give us a verse of that. I'm not sure we know it. Give us a verse.
No.
Come on, my Lauren, you know it.
I'll start off. Let me finish this. Let me finish this. Some people will definitely know it, some people won't, but it was just us. Literally everybody had a pint in their hand. I actually had a Red Bush and white lemonade in my hand. It was the middle of summer. It was the end of June. It was so warm, which doesn't happen often in Ireland, as we all know. And everybody was just absolutely loving life, just dancing in the middle of a street in Belfast.
Amazing.
I long for that day. I honestly do. I miss it so much.
I have a confession to make. I have never had a drink in Belfast in my life.
Sorry.
I haven't lived in Ireland now. Like I haven't lived in Ireland in 20 years. So like
fair enough. Fair enough. That's fair enough.
Come back and we will show you what a real good time is like, because the bars in Belfast and Dublin are amazing. Like we experienced a great one last year for the women in whiskey industry, and it just was phenomenal, wasn't it?
It was. So Belfast has become quite a fan of the rooftop bars, but I mean rooftop in the likes of LA or New York would be about the 35th floor, and Belfast it's the 4th. But you can still see the whole city, which is quite funny.
Cars driving past you.
You can still see the whole city, but Barry, you have to come up. If you do not message me when you reach Ireland, or Alex will be very disappointed. We'll show you around, absolutely.
If I know how to socialize and interact with people, I will definitely reach out and connect. Or I may never see another human again. It could go either way. We don't know.
Well, if you teach us to sing, we'll teach you to dance. How does that go?
Yes. So yes, the Stories and Sips exclusive Ireland tour. Myself and Alex will sing and dance for you both, for you all. That's a promise.
We don't require such commitment, but it would be appreciated. The audience loves a good dancing song. What was I going to ask you both about? Oh yeah, I'm gonna. Okay, so this 2008. Where am I? What's even going on anymore?
What's happening?
These my feet. It's taking time to open up. Like it's taken a lot longer to evolve and open for me than the Malaga cask. And eventually, I get those notes that you were sharing at the start. Yeah. But I didn't get them to begin with.
I actually, I did when we initially launched the Causeway Collection. I did actually add a couple of drops of water to the Moscatel, and it made it really sippable. And you really pulled through those notes that you just mentioned there, Barry. Absolutely. So
because you're
after having the crack.
Well, because you're both keeping me here, like you're insisting to stay longer, like you want to drink more, you're not letting me go away, and you're determined to drink more, then it means I have to move on to my next whiskey, which I got a request in the audience from it, so I'm going to open this.
Oh, please do. I haven't tried this, Barry, so I haven't yet. I will try it in 2 weeks' time. The tasting that I'm doing, but I haven't tried it yet, so you may lead the way on this one.
I've opened this already, and I have some thoughts, but you can take my thoughts with a grain of salt. But so this is Bushmills 28-year-old rare cask.
Stunning label. The label actually reminds me of the original label, Alex, of the 12-year Distillery Reserve. Remember, it was the cream label before it went blue. It reminds me of that. It's gorgeous.
All right, so we're going to need a 46th glass.
You're going to start with these lovely new green ones.
That's it. I had a cocktail masterclass before this at 8 o'clock, and there are still remnants of glasses from that because I just thought I need to sit down before this. So my behind what you can see here is a complete mess. This is all smoke and mirrors over here.
I know what you mean. If I was to turn around my camera, you'd wonder, am I safe?
Oh dear.
Hidden gems.
Oh, absolutely. Alex, what are you drinking? Sexton and ginger ale?
Yeah, I started off with the Sexton and ginger, and I'm now just on Sexton and ice. So
those glasses, I love them.
Yeah, I must admit, I do love the tall glass for your whiskey mixers, and then our beautiful glasses we have now. All inspired by our amazing bottle, of course. So
mine must have got lost in the post there, Alex. I didn't see them turning up at all of those glasses.
You know, you've had me on and made me feel so welcome. I'm quite sure I can rectify that.
All right, we'll hold you to that as well. Steve's joining us with a bit of his 28 rare cask.
Oh, nice.
Where else can we be? Only the lock-in, where 2 28 rare casks can be opened the same night, and maybe somebody else.
Absolutely.
I know that Dave's got one. Dave, maybe you've got one open too. You might join us. I mean, if we were able to get 8 out of 800, we'd have 1% of the total world market. Let's see if we can get that going.
That would be good. Yeah, definitely. That'd be impressive.
So this one is finished in cognac casks, unusually. And to read some of the information here. This 28-year-old single malt is the first offering of the Bushmills Rare Cask series, a testament to our long history and expertise as a single malt distillery. It's distilled in 1992, aged in hand-selected bourbon and Oloroso sherry, and then recast into French cognac casks for the remainder of its aging. Bursting with flavors of dried apricot, orange marmalade, roasted almonds, exquisitely long with a warming vanilla and cinnamon finish. This is one of the oldest Bushmills ever to be released. There's a 30-year-old out there as well, but this is one of the oldest, I believe, that's on the market.
Yeah, it is.
What are you drinking now, Lauren? Are you still on your Moscatel?
I'm on the Moscatel. Yeah, I'm still on the Moscatel. I was thinking to myself, I was like, will I knock up a whiskey sour? Will I do it?
Why wouldn't you?
behind the scenes, but it might be a bit messy. That involves egg white, and that gets very messy, so I may not do that.
Leave it
That
to
could
the
be your breakfast.
professionals.
It's almost breakfast time anyway. You might as well have the eggs.
It's funny you say that, Barry, because I have a bottle of our Blackbush Story series, which you might have heard of before, that we champion in Ireland. I have a bottle of limited edition Blackbush barrel-aged hot sauce.
Lovely.
So that was my little masterclass earlier. Was doing a few cocktails made with the Blackbush hot sauce. So it's also really nice on your eggs in the morning. So that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, well, I just call it a day now and just make my breakfast.
Why not? Why not?
Can I come over?
Just tell the powers that be that you were getting exposure, you were getting coverage here, you're doing media work. You need to sleep in for the rest of the day.
Oh, absolutely. The beauty is no one can go anywhere or do anything anyway, so we can sleep all day tomorrow, so it doesn't matter.
There you go. Same as myself. I wasn't packing 800 green glasses into packages, but that's all right. So this is when I first tried this, I opened this, I think probably back in December when I first got it, and I sipped on it one night, and it's one of those whiskies that it needs multiple visitations. You need to come back to it because it doesn't give you all of its secrets in one sitting, and it's layered and it's textured and it's actually quite delicate. It's like where the 1995 Malaga is a kind of it takes you by the throat and it shakes you because it's powerful and fruit and heat and spice. The 28 it's a delicate little flower of a whiskey. Like it's light and nuanced, and you almost want to spend a couple of hours trying to dissect it. But on the nose, it's wonderfully sweet. There's a lovely, lovely honey caramel nose to it, and almost like a little lavender on the nose.
Oh, you've got me with lavender there, Barry. I'm intrigued to try this one now.
But it changes every time I taste this. It's like I'm tasting a different whiskey.
Yeah. No, I'm very excited to try this. I think we've got our hands on a bottle of that for a St. Patrick's Week tasting with Belfast Whisky Club. If Paul is anywhere on here.
It's like how would you describe it? Like a more delicate version of even the Redbreast, or not the Redbreast, the Bushmills 21-year-old. There's those lovely orchard fruits of a single malt of that age, but it's almost like, if it's even possible, the cognac cask has pulled it back a bit and just maybe balanced it and softened it to where these are light, delicate flavors. It's just really hard I can't overestimate how delicate and light it is. Not in it's light as in I don't get flavor, but rather the flavors are just kind of, they come up and kiss you on the lips and then run away. And they're not, there's no French kissing here. It's just more kiss.
More a little peck and then pulls it back. Yeah.
Hello, goodbye.
and runs away into the forest laughing. Oh, bottle number 3 is here. Dave is back with his bottle.
Oh, we've got number 3. Nice.
3 of them. It is a beautiful whiskey. It's beautifully balanced. It has, you can feel that almost like grape alcohol of the cognac, that wonderful grape note on the palate, that refined distilled grape note. Oh, it just takes time, just takes minutes to open up and build in your mouth, but it never. This is the person who walks into a room and doesn't need to be seen. They're fashionable, they're dressed well. The right people will see them. They'll know what they're wearing. There's no logos. They're just perfectly put together. It's just a wonderfully balanced whiskey.
They don't ask to be seen. They're just seen naturally. No. Yeah.
No, they don't say Gucci. They just have a plain white T-shirt, but it was made by Gucci.
That is the best description ever. It's like, we don't scream branded, but we are branded.
It speaks for itself. That's exactly how you want it.
All those fruits, those apricots, peaches coming through so well. Steve says pipe tobacco hits him first. That's interesting. Pipe tobacco.
Funny you say that, Steve. The tobacco hits me with the 21 year. You get that really nice kind of tobacco note with it. So I knew obviously you drew a few similarities between it and the 21 year barley, the 28 year. So
yeah,
interesting to do a little comparison when I get my hands on it. Absolutely.
I mean, if I have to wait much longer for you to dance, I'll have to pull out the Redbreast 20 or the Bushmills 21-year-old as well.
I do not think we would ever recover from that, Alex. I really don't.
We have had distillery owners come on here and sing songs. We've had people read out Seamus Heaney poetry. Like, people come here with their culture and their love for entertainment. And you're only bringing whiskey. Is that what I'm to understand?
Now I feel guilty. We've got really nice toasts for you though, so we'll hold those until then. Alex, I couldn't hear you there. Are you still? Are you muted? Or are you all right?
No, I'm here. I'm here.
Thank God. I was like, I can't hear. No, we've got nice toasts. Now I feel guilty for not dancing, but I honestly don't think we would ever recover from that.
I'm sort of scared our brands may never recover from it. I think what we should do is invite everybody to Ireland and come personally.
Yes.
And see us dance.
I will 100% dance
individually for you.
Sweet Caroline. I will 100% dance in person, not a problem. Maybe not on screen where I can just see myself. That's not something I want to ever see.
This is one of those things where you need that pub environment where you're actually close and personal with each other, and then you can kind of do you know. Yeah.
I see.
Otherwise, we just sit here and do this sort of like shoulder dance.
Yeah, you can only dance with your top half.
Here's what I'm hearing. When we ask if you'll give us a song or a dance, you've managed uniquely and quite impressively to put that back on us to say, well, if you come to Ireland, we will do that thing. And it almost feels like you had me going there for a second. It almost felt like you were actually treating us to something, but you weren't. You were costing us money to come to Ireland so that we could see you dance.
But you know what? It is worth every penny to see us dance.
Our dance moves are priceless.
Honestly,
money can't buy them.
Like it, I can assure you.
I'm sure there's a cost. I think this is here's what we're getting at now, and it sounds like this is the path you're going down. And I'm going to put words in your mouth. It sounds like what you're angling for is a kind of a Bushmills Sexton sponsored tour of Ireland, and a Stories and Sips group to come over with like the Sexton logo on the plane and Bushmills logo, and I'm not against it.
That would honestly definitely be another career highlight for me if I saw a chartered flight coming with Bushmills on one side of the plane and Sexton on the other.
Absolutely. Everybody on board there for a good time, and I can assure you, come here and we'll give you it for sure. Steve is right. The layers are amazing. So many layers, it's hard to pull them out. Yeah, it is. This one takes hours. You want to sit down and you need a notebook and a pen and paper and just take your time with it and just extract all the bits from it. But yeah, it's stunning. That's a wonderful thing about single malts. They do open up. They do take time. Your palate takes time to get used to. Each part of your mouth will pick up different flavor profiles as it gets used to the higher strength alcohol and it develops those flavor profiles. It just becomes alive at different stages. So you do get to experience so many different flavors all in one bottle, which is amazing. Dave says the same. It definitely reveals more at each sip. And Aaron says we could sing Linger by Dolores, the Cranberries. You want to clear the room?
Oh dear. No, I definitely would need a lot of whiskey to make me sing. The only times I ever sing are when I'm in the car by myself or in the shower when no one else is in the house. Only two times you'll ever catch me belting a tune. I wish I could say that I was the same. I have been known to be on karaoke, but I definitely go on to clear the bar, not to entertain the bar. Unfortunately, tone deaf is not the word for me. I have to say I'm very actually grateful for it because I'm actually nearly deaf on one side, and I actually believe that's why I'm actually good at whiskey now, because it's a true saying when they say one of your senses disappear, your others heighten.
And years ago, I wouldn't have said I picked up the same flavors and profiles that I do in the nose and the palate that I do now. So for every cloud, there is a silver lining. So that's my cloud and silver lining. I'm happy enough to be adequately to be able to ignore conversations when I don't need to hear them. I can taste things now that I never was able to taste before. So.
Well, we'll settle for a toast. I mean, you've been amazing tonight. Like, you've given us so much crack, so much insight, so much passion. I mean, I'm inspired. Like, I feel like I need to go out and start a whiskey brand now just to compete with Bushmills too. You know, I feel like there's that. It's just your passion, both of you, for the industry is just so palpable, and it came across so well, and so many in the audience felt it and shared it. And really, you should go back to see the comments on YouTube and Facebook tomorrow, and just to see what people are saying. Really amazing commentary. And the Sexton is an absolute credit to you, Alex, and the inspiration and the story and its provenance and how it came to be just adds so much more to our enjoyment of it. And Lauren, like your love and effusive passion for Bushmills and your marriage to malt and you being a whiskey nun is a first for us. We've never had a nun on the lock-in before, and so it's particularly impressive.
And can I just say as well, from a perspective, my brand ambassador perspective and an ambassadorial role, and having Alex as someone to look up to is incredible as well. Like, I mean, she is the person that I aspire to be. I'm not trying to declare that I will ever have my own brand, but to be...
You never know.
Well, that's true, but I'm not trying to make any official announcements on this podcast, but to have Alex as a role model is just incredible, and to learn from her, and she's been so great to me. To have her as someone to look up to helps me so much, and it's definitely a way, like, she's paving the way for me and for many other women in the industry.
That's fantastic.
Thank you, Lauren.
What a story of, Alex, you having inherited your knowledge and passion from others, and now you're passing it on to others, and Lauren's going to do the same and share it with the next eager, enthusiastic, earnest person who wants to learn. And what a wonderful cycle that is, all while we sip on single malts. I mean, we can't really, we can't complain. Nobody listens.
Absolutely. And the thing is, Alex, I genuinely said this to you yesterday, you can never stop learning. I'm still learning. I know, Alex, you're still learning. There is so much history and so much, there's a wealth of knowledge within this industry, and you would be silly and very naive to think that you know absolutely everything there is to know, because you never do. There's always something you can learn. There's always something you can build on in terms of the products themselves, or the history of the brands, the history of the category. It's just something you can build on, and it's like the Causeway stones. It's the building blocks, and that's how you build your knowledge within the industry. And one thing I learned yesterday, which I never knew in my many years of tour guiding, our mash tun has a window cleaner. You literally just turn a little lever and it cleans the window, and every day is a school day. And I did not know that until yesterday, and I walked past it for 5 years. So that's a very small learning step. That's a very small one, but it proves my point.
Yeah. Look, I'm 17 years in the industry, Lauren, and I'm learning every day. So isn't it wonderful that we can still learn and we don't get stuck in a rut? We can always find something new about the industry to keep us moving forward. So yeah.
Absolutely. And the thing is, everybody is so welcoming of the fact that you can learn off other people, and you pick up a little fact that you maybe didn't know that 2 months prior. And it's so nice, and the people are so appreciative of your story and your journey and how you get there. And it's hands down the best industry in the world. I've said that right here, and I truly believe it really is. Such a family.
I'll drink to that. I'll drink to most things, but I'll drink to that especially.
You want to toast, Barry? Alex, do you want to do your wee toast, and then I'll finish mine?
Well,
let's do that.
I think tonight, based on everything we've talked about, I think this is a good one. Dance if no one were watching, sing if no one were listening, and live every day as if it was your last. Sláinte.
Sláinte.
On brand.
Very on brand.
It's a good reminder for us, Alex. Like you've reminded us well tonight that this isn't a dress rehearsal.
No, it really isn't. It definitely isn't. We've all lost loved ones through our lifetime, and they mean a lot to us. So, like, come on, party hard, enjoy it, and make our lives matter.
Words to live by. And then be buried in a 6-sided casket.
And the 6-sided casket.
Made of basalt.
Made of basalt.
Made of basalt, so nobody's going to haunt us and get out. Oh dear.
There'll be no exhumations.
If Greg is still with us, if Greg is still here, that was a winning comment for me for the night, was the 6-sided casket. Absolutely.
Greg's still here.
He is there. He's still there. My toast is I learned it from Colin Megan, our wonderful master distiller, but it stuck with me and it really struck a chord with me for so many reasons, because it's such a beautiful toast and it links to your family and friends and the importance of the whiskey community. And it also links back to the heritage and history of Bushmills. We're obviously right beside the sea. And in 1890, our SS Bushmills, our steamship, had a voyage around the world delivering our whiskey to all corners of the world. So it links back to our history in many ways. So there are tall ships, there are long ships, there are ships that sail the sea. But the best ships are friendships, and may they always be. Sláinte.
Sláinte. Amazing. Amazing.
You'll kill my Saturday morning.
Yeah, we kill lots of people Saturday mornings. I've had people message me saying they used to cycle every Saturday morning, and now they cycle every Saturday afternoon.
Well, fair play for even going out in the afternoon, because I have no intentions of going anywhere.
Well, I agree on the friendship side of things, and whiskey brings people together. One of the greatest joys of the last few years for me has been both virtually and in person, just making new friends and meeting new people and meeting amazing people like yourselves, who I know that when we get the chance, that I like nothing better than just to have a few sips with you all in person and clink the glasses, and there's nothing better than meeting a group of people that, at the end of the night, you could all hold each other up after you've had your 16 whiskeys as you all walk down the street and find your ways to taxis and the way home. But
maybe grab a chippy or a McDonald's or something on the way home. Absolutely.
Supermax and Air Square in Galway or something.
I have a story about McDonald's in Galway, but I don't. Oh no, I'm not going there tonight.
I don't know. I think you can go there. I think we'd welcome you going there.
After one of our events, I'm going to get so much abuse for this on Monday morning, but it's a funny story. After one of our events in Galway, it wasn't me. Can I just clarify, this was not me who did this?
Sure.
Certain someone I know poured ketchup on a wall because it wasn't out of a little tub, it was in a sachet. He poured it on a wall and dipped a chip inside it. That's my Galway post-night out takeaway story. Wasn't me. It genuinely wasn't me. Wasn't me. Honestly, no, it really wasn't me. And you definitely wouldn't be doing it now.
I'd go so far as to say that, I'd almost say there are even more Galway experiences than just that one. Like, that might not be the only experience people have when they go to Galway.
No, definitely not. I feel that's very mild, but it's a memory that's stuck in my head anyway. for certain. Oh dear.
Well, you've both been legends, like absolute legends, or as the phrase was thrown around one of our lock-ins, ledge bags, apparently is a phrase.
Ledge bags.
You're a ledge bag. Yeah. It's both. It seems to be both an insult. You could hurl it at somebody and also compliment them.
That's the most Irish saying ever. You are a ledge bag. That is definitely that was from an Irish
from Ireland.
That came from Ireland. 100%.
I think its intention comes down to the tone, It's like, oh, you ledge bag or you ledge bag.
Right. You can throw it whatever way it fits.
Ledge bag.
Tony says,
amazing.
Songless legends, but that's okay. We're gonna. I like that people come here expecting us all to dance and sing like monkeys for the audience, but we got to go with the flow. People have different skills to share at different times, and we will enjoy the singing skills and dancing skills when we go to Belfast. So yes, I think we're at the end of our night. We have you have unbelievably clocked in a 3-hour session. It's 2:00 in the morning. No, it's 3:00 in the morning Oh my God,
God.
I've done it.
We did
Amazing.
it. We did it.
Amazing.
Yeah,
You did
we
it.
Well, Barry, thank you so much for having us.
Yes,
It's been an absolute pleasure, and I appreciate all the support of the Sexton you've had for us. So thank you.
Yeah, Barry,
Anytime.
you're a legend, and I know exactly you are the type of person that myself and Alex could happily sit over a pint and a whiskey with 100%. And I really, really hope that happens in the not so.
We'll do it. We'll do it.
Absolutely.
It'll be a privilege. It'll be a privilege for me. I would absolutely love it. So look, go get some sleep and dance in your sleep because
I'm too hyper now. I'm too hyper.
Dancing
I'm
around
gonna
the
go and
kitchen.
Too
I
hyper.
know I'm going to go and have a whiskey sour now and eggs on toast. No, I'm not. I'm going to sleep. But
I was going to say you could channel that hyperactivity into a song, but maybe that's a separate story.
Now, come on, Lauren. It is the end of the night. We have to finish off with our favourite.
what's our no faith? Oh, I can't. I can't. You have to get Stephen in for that one.
The bartenders did pay us to close the show, so come on.
I can't. I'm not. No, there's a line, and that's crossing it. Bring Stephen in. Get Stephen. He'll sing it.
You're tired.
If we had it on the background somewhere, I might sing over it, but I'm not just like that.
I tried.
I'm a better dancer than singer. I will definitely throw some shapes for you in the middle of Belfast when we can. I promise.
Okay.
Promise.
We will receive said shapes when the time is right. We will receive these shapes.
Absolutely.
You've been amazing. Thank you so much, both of you. We've introduced a new audience, perhaps, to the Sexton and to Black Bush, and to those who are experiencing or just learning about the Causeway Collection. There's a good journey ahead of them as well. I'm so excited about what's coming out of the distillery. Huge fan. I'm a massive fan, and whatever I can do to help you, support you, anything I can do, you know how to find me, message me, and let me know what I can do to fly your flag, because you make me proud to be part of the Irish whiskey industry in a small way. So let's launch into that.
Likewise, Barry, anything we can do to help you, just give us a shout anytime. I will drink to that, absolutely.
Yeah, we're a family.
Cheers, family always.
Sláinte. Cheers.
Launcha, thank you so much.
Thanks now.
Thanks
Take
a
care,
million.
everybody.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Yes.
Bye.
See you later. Bye.
Amazing, 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 amazing. Donna hiding in the background there saying, go on, give us the owl triangle. Donna is joining us next week because Donna is coming back to co-host. Donna Stewart, who could perfectly easily handle this lock-in on her own, but I'm still going to sit in here and drink whiskey and tell stories. Next week, we are going to do really what's part one of a two-part St. Patrick's Week celebration. So part one starts next week. Donna and I are going to co-host. We're going to bring on some musical guests. We're going to have an expert from the world of Guinness join us as well to drink some Guinness and to talk about Guinness. We will sip some whiskies, of which we'll share, which will really be a kind of a kitchen sink of whiskies next week. We're going to just pull whiskies from our shelves over the course of the night. There could be 8, there could be 10, there could be 15 whiskies that find their ways to our screens next week. So we'll be sharing those. So be sure to tune in for that. It's going to be a good old session. And then part 2 of that on March 19th is going to be the 2 Stacks Irish whiskey takeover of the lock-in, dram in a can. We're going to have the lads, the founders from 2 Stacks Whiskey join us. We're going to have some music, musical guests. We're going to drink whiskey out of cans and talk about their journey and have a good old time. So it's really, we're kind of buttressing St. Patrick's Day with events on the 12th and events on the 19th. So it's going to be an absolute session, or as Donna says, it's going to be a whopper sesh, an absolute whopper sesh. How amazing was that tonight? How amazing was it that we get to, how privileged are we and lucky that we get to chat with the master blender of the Sexton. We get to chat with brand ambassadors from Bushmills. We get to enjoy and learn from the passion, the insights, the experience of those who are making the whiskey that we enjoy every week. And I just feel so privileged every week that the people will give us their time and their knowledge and their insights and their generosity of spirit. And it's just amazing. It's just, Friday is the highlight of my week every single week. And we're just so, so lucky to have such talented, passionate people in the world of Irish whiskey. And hopefully Alex and Lauren will join us again. We'd love to have them. And also we'll do something in person because they're going to paint a jet for us and cover it in logos and fly us to Ireland. That's almost a contract. I feel like a verbal contract is as good as a written contract. So I'll be sending an invoice on Monday morning to the Sexton and Bushmills for the creation of a logoed plane, and we'll take it from there. It seems like that's what they were hinting at, or suggesting I should do, right? All right, let me see some of the comments. Chris says, thank you for sharing all of this with us. I do nothing except press go live. It's everyone else who comes here, Chris, and gives us this incredible knowledge and insight and just makes it so amazing. And I'm just, again, so privileged to be amongst such legends. Greg says, another great sesh, lack of song notwithstanding. I can fix that for you right now, and I can give you a few bars of a song and send you on your merry way. Never let it be said that the lock-in let you down. Not that the ladies let us down at all, but a song was not part of their contract or their rider to appear. In any case, I'll always close out with an old song. Let me see. Stacey says, next Friday is Proclamation Day. You'll still join in. I'm sure. Lisa asks, how did I pull this off after the day I've had? Note to self, look up ledge bags and throw shapes. Yeah, we need a translation tool for ledge bags and throw shapes. Throw shapes just means, just hanging out, maybe dancing a bit, maybe making some moves, maybe, I don't know, maybe you're throwing shapes. How do you translate it? I'm not sure. It's almost like there's no real translation for sláinte. There kind of is, but there's not really. Or for, yeah, throwing shapes. It's a great one. That's a classic. That's a classic. All right, let me see. Okay, so normally we sing the Owl Triangle, but we've sang that so many times. And somebody asked a few weeks ago for something a bit more local, a bit more of Cork, because the Old Triangle, of course, is a Dublin tune. And there's only one Cork song that can be sung, and that's The Banks of My Own Lovely Lee. And people wince in horror and fear in pubs around the country when they hear somebody get up to sing a verse or two of The Banks, because they immediately are reminded of Cork people's superiority complex. And I won't hide from it. I take it as a badge of honor. We think in Cork, of course, that we are the superior county. But we do have some great music and great tunes. And The Banks of My Own Lovely Lee is one such tune. And Sean O'Shea is a singer who kind of made it famous, and is a beautiful tenor voice. Again, nothing that I can replicate in any way, but I'm happy to butcher a few verses just to honor Cork and to sing us out at the end of the night. And that way we can all go to bed knowing we had an old tune, CHOON, in our back pocket. Let me see here before I do that. The Banks, says Diarmid, indeed. The People's Republic of Cork, says Michael. Indeed it is. A bit like Texas. People in Texas think that they're their own republic and they'd like to secede from the rest of the country. We're the same in Cork. Greg says, I do resemble those remarks of superiority. The same man who wants to be building six-sided coffins. Up the rebels. Laura's still here at 3 o'clock in the morning. All right, a few verses of The Banks. Okay. I have the lyrics here. Let me wet my whistle with a little sip of the Moscatel. And then we're off for the night. That's the end of us then. Here we go. The Banks of My Own Lovely Lee. How oft do my thoughts in their fancy take flight to the home of my childhood away, to the days when each patriot's vision seemed bright, ere I dreamed that those joys should decay, when my heart was as light as the wild winds that blow down the Mardyke through each elm tree, where we sported and played neath each green leafy shade on the banks of my own lovely lea, where we sported and played 'neath each green leafy shade, on the banks of my own lovely lea. And then in the springtime of laughter and song, can I ever forget the sweet hours with the friends of my youth as we rambled along amongst the green mossy banks and wildflowers? And then when the evening sun sinking to rest shed its golden light over the sea, on the maid with her lover the wild daisies pressed, on the banks of my own lovely lea. And the maid with her lover the wild daisies pressed, on the banks of my own lovely lea. Woo! Sinead, I butchered it, but we got a song. We got a tune. Sinead. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it. Go home. We're opening the doors, letting the cold wind in so that you leave and go home to bed. Rebecca, Mark, James, Michael, John, Tom, everyone's still hanging out there. Thanks a million for joining us tonight. To everyone who joined us tonight, thank you so much. We had amazing guests. I loved having you all. Thanks for joining us. And I'll see you next week with Donna. We're going to co-host a remarkable part 1 of our St. Patrick's Week celebrations. So join us, tune in. And if you're looking for me, I will be packaging green Tua glasses for the next 16 years of my life. So thanks a million. And we'll talk to you next week. Sláinte, all of you.